Lost in a daze, he could faintly hear someone calling his name. Slowly, our guy pried his eyes open. But what he saw when he opened them was completely unbelievable. He'd been reborn, sent all the way back to his teenage years. You see, in his past life, Song Yunxiang was humanity's greatest warrior, the wielder of a legendary spirit soul general. For decades on end, Song Yunxiang had single-handedly carried the entire human race on his back, while they were all cowering and barely surviving inside their fortresses. But as these things go, the scales of power eventually tipped overwhelmingly in the enemy's favor. In the end, Song Yunxiang made the ultimate choice: to take all those damn bugs down with him in one final glorious blaze. And now, back in the present, Song Yunxiang was stuck in the uniform of the Mech-Martial Academy. Stepping outside, it hit him he had traveled 60 years into the past. He was in Yuanding City, a central hub located in the southern continent's border region of the Tiandu nation. Meanwhile, at the Mech-Martial Academy's arena, two spirit soul generals were clashing in a fierce head-on battle. As these two titans of steel were throwing down, the sidelines were packed with students cheering their hearts out. Tucked away in a corner, a young man named Lu Yan watched the spectacle, with a look of pure awe and fascination on his face. 18-year-old Lu Yan was a spirit soul master, just a beginner at the elementary yellow rank, hailing from the humble Lu family village. His eyes were glued to the fight, and he instantly recognized them as prestige-type spirit soul generals. The one decked out in blue was a custom model exclusive to the Mech-Martial Academy. This was the first time he'd ever seen a spirit soul general. This close in, man, the kid could barely contain his excitement. What an awesome Manhwa moment for him. Back in the ring, the two mechs were still going at it, hammer and tongs. The blue spirit soul general swung its massive sword down in a decisive arc, forcing the red one back on its heels to defend. Sensing his opponent was on the retreat, the pilot of the blue armor grew even more cocky and began winding up for another devastating blow. The crowd went absolutely wild, chanting the name of the pilot inside the blue armor. Wang Hao, you're the best. So the pilot of the blue mech was none other than Wang Hao, the certified genius of the Mech-Martial Academy. Inside the cockpit, Wang Hao smirked, oozing with self-satisfaction. Then with all his might, he brought his colossal sword crashing down. The sheer force of that attack was so overwhelming that it sent the red armor flying right out of the arena. The blue mech immediately realized what kind of epic move his opponent was about to unleash. Without a second thought, the blue mech shot into the airs, twisting into a freaking vortex in mid-flight. He unleashed his signature move, the Great Cyclone Slash, and rocketed straight for the red armor. But just as this was happening, someone noticed something was off. While the entire crowd was roaring with excitement, cheering for the blue fighter, our boy suddenly yelled out, claiming that the red armor was deliberately baiting the blue mech into using his ultimate move. He stated with absolute certainty that the blue armor was about to get totally wrecked. The people standing next to him heard this and just scowled. They shot back that he was just spouting a bunch of nonsense. Noticing Lu Yan wasn't wearing the Mecha Military Academy's uniform, they immediately pegged him as a shady character, maybe even a spy sent over from a rival school. Just as the two sides were about to throw down, a deafening kaboom echoed from the arena. A massive explosion had just gone off. A piece of the soul armor had broken off and was sent flying through the air. Everyone thought the blue armor was a shoo-in for the win, but the reality before their eyes was completely different. The red armor was standing tall, his massive sword easily parrying the blue mech's attack. The outcome of the match left the entire crowd absolutely shell-shocked. They were so stunned they couldn't even form a sentence. Nobody expected the red mech to pull off such a dramatic last-second comeback. This is why I love a good action manhwa. The same guys who were just cussing out Lu Yan a minute ago were now convinced that the blue armor's loss was all his fault for jinxing it and distracting them, making them miss the whole thing. When they turned around to find Lu Yan and give him a piece of their mind, he had somehow already vanished into thin air. By now, Lu Yan had already slipped out of the arena, making his way around to the back of the academy. He grumbled to himself as he walked. Man, if I had stayed there any longer, I would have been public enemy number one for that mob. But just his luck, Lu Yan ran left, right, and every which way, but only managed to get himself completely and utterly lost. He kept running into dead ends and he couldn't find that big red door the old man had told him about. After wandering around for a little while longer, our boy ran smack into yet another dead end. He was utterly speechless. Seriously, what kind of lunatic designed a layout this ridiculously complex? His head started to spin a complete mess and he had no idea what to do next. With no other options, Lu Yan decided to go full caveman. He was done trying to navigate this maze and opted to power up his body with soul force and just leap over the wall. A golden metallic glow erupted from Lu Yan's entire body and then he shot upwards, clearing the wall by dozens of meters before making a picture-perfect landing. It was a 10 out of 10 jump, a move straight out of a classic manhwa. And Lu Yan couldn't help but feel pretty darn pleased with himself. But the moment he looked up, what greeted his eyes was the sight of several gorgeous girls changing their clothes. I don't know if you'd call this guy lucky or just plain cursed, but he had managed to land squarely in the girls' changing room. Seeing such a stimulating scene, Lu Yan completely froze for a solid few seconds. All of a sudden, a girl named He Yan, an 18-year-old and the class president for grade 10 at the Mecha Arts Institute, also happened to be a late-stage yellow-rank star soul master. She suddenly felt like someone was watching her, so she whipped her head around, the moment she turned, presenting her perfectly round assets. Lu Yan's face went beet red, and his nose just exploded like a geyser. Realizing she was being gawked at, He Yan started trembling with rage. She immediately summoned her girl squad to hunt the peeper down. As he bolted, Lu Yan desperately tried to explain that he didn't do it on purpose, but fate, being a cruel mistress, had a different plan, leading Lu Yan straight into a dead-end alley once again. In a flash, He Yan and her crew, armed with whatever they could find, cornered him. They weren't interested in his excuses. They just wanted to beat Lu Yan into a bloody pulp. After that, the only sounds echoing in the alley were the pathetic screams of Lu Yan mixed with desperate pleas like, "Please stop hitting me." It was truly a miserable scene. A short while later, on the top floor of the administration building inside the dean's office, Lu Yan was hauled in by the furious He Yan and her posse. His face was so swollen, he looked like he'd headbutted a hornet's nest, swollen and bruised from a merciless beatdown. And it was here that he was forced to spill his life story. Turns out he's from Lu Family Village, located on the southern border, and he's a new student who passed the special entrance exam. Today, he was just trying to register at the Mech-Martial Arts Institute. Then he made sure to plead his case, swearing he wasn't intentionally trying to be a peeping Tom and that the whole thing was just one big unfortunate misunderstanding. Sitting across from him was Gu Shijing, the acting dean of the Mech-Martial Arts Institute, with Xiao Yue by her side. Her secretary was reading aloud from Lu Yan's file. Apparently, Lu Yan is 18 years old, a soul master at the initial Huang rank with an aptitude assessment, result of external second class. He previously attended a preparatory school for soul masters, scoring 92 in academics and a whopping 97 in martial arts, passing the special exam. For the Mech-Martial Arts Institute, his father was a retired soldier who had reached the peak Huang rank in the Tiandu Kingdom's army with the rank of corporal, and had even earned a third-class merit citation once. Hearing the secretary mention his external second-class aptitude, Gu Shijing immediately realized that kind of talent made him what you'd call a promising seed. If nothing unexpected happened, he could probably break through to the Zhuan realm before he even turned 20. With that thought, she decided to place Lu Yan in class 10 and then told her secretary to go ahead and process his admission papers. But as Lu Yan caught the sly, almost sinister look in Gu Shijing's eyes, he got this sinking feeling that something very unlucky was waiting for him just around the corner. He couldn't help but wonder, what in the world does that look mean? Just then, Gu Shijing ordered untie him, which sent He Yan into a frenzy. She absolutely could not believe they were handling this guy so leniently, despite Lu Yan's claims of innocence, and though she was practically boiling with rage, He Yan had no choice but to bite her tongue. Oh, she desperately wanted to give Lu Yan another thorough beatdown, but since they were in the dean's office, all she could do was let her frustration show on her face. What a classic manhwa scene. She puffed up her cheeks, steam practically shooting out of her ears, in anger, looking ridiculously cute in the process. How adorable. Gu Shijing arranges for Lu Yan to be in the same class as He Yan, and what's more, she basically dumps Lu Yan on the poor girl, telling her to show him around the school and help him get settled. After that, he's to be handed over to Instructor Ou. But first, he needs to swing by the administration office to pick up his uniform. The sheer injustice of it all had He Yan trembling with rage, but she didn't dare argue back, forcing herself to agree with the director. With that settled, Gu Shijing had Xiaoyue hand over Lu Yan's file to He Yan. Xiaoyue took out the file and compressed it into a data card, then handed it to Lu Yan with a word of caution. This little card contains all of your personal data, Lu Yan, so please take good care of it. He Yan shot a glare at Lu Yan, so full of fire and brimstone you'd think she wanted to stuff him in a box and mail him to the Arctic Circle. Then she spoke in a voice so icy, it practically gave him frostbite. Follow me, student Lu Yan. Without another word, Yin excused herself from the director and stormed off. She marched outside, fists clenched, stomping her feet with every furious step. Seeing his cue, Lu Yan quickly scurried after her. After the two left, Gu Shijing and her secretary didn't say a word, just quietly watching them go. Suddenly, Xiaoyue remembered something important, and the secretary immediately informed Gu Shijing. According to a report from assistant instructor Cheng Yi, a student has gone missing. The student is number 16 from class 10, named Song Yunxiang. He's been absent for 3 days now, and we still haven't been able to contact him. Hearing that a student was missing, even Gu Shijing found the situation extremely puzzling, just as Xiaoyue suggested. Seeking authorization to report the missing student to the security bureau, Gu Shijing cut her off. You'd think Song Yunxiang was someone special to have made such an impression on the director. But oh no, it turns out the only impression she had of him was that he was that useless trash from the Song family with an innately flawed spiritual vein. This manhwa plot just keeps getting thicker. Turns out Jia Yong'ancheng basically pulled some strings to get into the Jiwu Institute. Xiaoyue then continued with her report. Apparently, the last student to see Song Yunxiang said that Song Yunxiang had cornered them in the dorms and started asking all sorts of bizarre questions. They also overheard him muttering something about still having 3 days left, that sort of thing. And then poof, he vanished into thin air. Right in the middle of her detailed report, Xiaoyue started choking on a cloud of Gu Shijing's cigarette smoke. She immediately spun around to give her an earful. Seeing this, did Gu Shijing stop? Of course not. Instead, she took another long, deliberate drag from her cigarette and brazenly blew the smoke right back in Xiaoyue's face, which only made her even more furious. The girl's hair practically stood on end like an angry cat puffing up its fur. The two of them bickered for a good while before finally getting back to the whole Song Yunxiang situation. According to Gu Shijing, his family situation is, shall we say, a bit complicated. So she's going to try and get in touch with his family first. Meanwhile, He Yan is giving our boy Lu Yan the grand tour of the academy. Over there, you've got the residential area for the Jiwu Institute's staff. Walk past the staff housing and you'll hit the student dorms. The building on the left is the potion crafting lab, and the path on the right leads through the main lecture building. She then gave him a little heads up. Tomorrow he has a class on astral soul construct formation, and another on basic coded language arrays. Sounds like a real page-turner. Both classes will be held in the tiered lecture hall in the main building. Tailing along behind her, Lu Yan couldn't help but wonder where on earth they were going now. In response, He Yan told him she was taking him to the combat arena, because this afternoon is the practical combat class for astral souls. She also made sure to remind Lu Yan that in a bit he'd better change into that new uniform he just got. Apparently, the class instructor absolutely despises students who dress casually. This isn't some slice-of-life manhwa after all. Noticing that he was just standing there zoning out instead of following her, He Yan got all huffy and turned back to hurry him along. And just as she turned around, she saw Lu Yan Where were they going? In response, He Yan said. She was now taking him to the combat arena, because this afternoon is the practical combat class for astral souls. She also made sure to remind Lu Yan in a little while that he should change into the new uniform he just received, because the class instructor absolutely hates students who show up in whatever they want. Seeing him just standing there spacing out and not following her, He Yan got annoyed and turned back to rush him. The moment she turned around, she saw Lu Yan, and annoyed turned back to hurry him along. When she turned around, she saw Lu. Lu Yan was staring dumbfounded at something which made our girl raise a giant invisible question mark. All she could see were Lu Yan's eyes wide as dinner plates and practically glowing. Turns out my man was absolutely gobsmacked by the statue in front of them. Seeing his fanboy reaction, He Yan decided to fill him in. This, she explained, is the mech frame of a legendary hero from 400 years ago. It goes by the epic name of Soul Spirit General Tatsi. With a face beaming with pride, He Yan happily recounted the tale for Lu Yan. The grand history of the Martial Mech Academy. The very first director was the hero chosen by the Soul Spirit General Tatsi itself. That absolute legend piloted Tatsi and conquered the entire Nanzhou region for the Tiandu Kingdom. And then 400 years ago, he established the Nanzhou Martial Mech Academy. The director's Soul Spirit General eventually transformed into a Soul Jade. It was then sealed inside this very statue to protect the Martial Mech Academy, and to wait for the next hero to show up. After hearing He Yan's awesome story, Lu Yan's eyes were practically on fire. He felt something, a specific kind of power bubbling up and surging through his body. It was like a holy beam of Manhwa protagonist light had just shown him the way. He swore an oath right then and there he would become a hero just like that first director. His face was set with more determination than ever before. He would aim to become one of the 8 generals of Tiandu. He was dead set on becoming the most powerful Soul Spirit General, period. But suddenly, the moment the words left his mouth, the statue of Soul Spirit General Tatsi began to tremble. It created a small but very noticeable tremor. The Soul Jade within reacted with an intense otherworldly phenomenon. The Soul Jade materialized, unleashing a blindingly brilliant blue light. Witnessing this insane scene, our girl, He Yan, started to put 2 and 2 together. Could that be a soul power resonance wave? She wondered to herself, is this really the Soul Jade of the Soul Spirit General Tatsi? She'd never seen such a bizarre phenomenon in her life. It took Lu Yan a hot minute to snap out of his daze. He turned to He Yan in utter amazement. Did something just light up just now? He asked. He pointed toward the statue. The Soul Jade within was reacting with an intense otherworldly phenomenon. The Soul Jade appeared, unleashing a blindingly brilliant blue light. Seeing a sight like this, our girl? He Yan immediately had a suspicion. Wait, don't tell me that's a soul power resonance wave. The question echoed in her mind. Could this truly be the Soul Jade of the Soul Spirit General Tatsi? She'd never seen such a strange occurrence in her entire life. So it's no wonder it took Lu Yan a moment to pull himself together. He asked He Yan in total shock. Hey, did you see that? Did something just glow? He gestured wildly at the statue. He pointed again just to be sure right at the statue. The Spirit General Zizi was still utterly clueless. It had no idea what the heck was going on. Before He Yan could even say a word, Lu Yan was already gone, zipping back to the Spirit General Zizi to check it out. But the weird vibe from before was completely gone now, which only made him even more confused. At this point, He Yan's mind was completely blown. She couldn't help but wonder, did the first headmaster's Spirit General actually just resonate with that absolute moron Lu Yan? Could Lu Yan really be Zizi's next host? The moment she thought of it, He Yan immediately tossed that ridiculous notion right out of her head. She was absolutely positive that what she saw before was just a total hallucination. I mean, how could the legendary Spirit General from the start of this manhwa possibly choose a complete dummy like Lu Yan? Up ahead, Lu Yan was still totally absorbed, studying the statue. He licked his finger and poked the Spirit General with it just to see what would happen. Right then, a furious He Yan charged over and gave Lu Yan a good smack. Hey, you need to learn how to behave and stop touching everything. After that, He Yan dragged Lu Yan away like he was a misbehaving puppy to go report to the instructor. And even with a massive throbbing lump on his head, Lu Yan couldn't shake the nagging thought that the spirit general had definitely reacted to him. High above Song Yunxiang had been watching the entire thing unfold. He was a little surprised that people from the Eastern continent 16 years ago still believed in the legends of immortals descending to the mortal realm. By now, his own preparations were pretty much ready. Everything was more or less in place. He swore to himself that this time he would absolutely not let them sacrifice themselves here for nothing. At that moment, the martial arts arena was ringing with the deafening cheers of an excited crowd. On the stage, two spirit generals were locked in a ferocious battle, their weapons clashing against each other, sending sparks flying everywhere. In a flash, the blue mecha suit completely overwhelmed, the red one snagging the victory. The audience below absolutely roared, getting hyped up. After the match wrapped up, Qing Yi, the 10th grade assistant instructor, an initial stage profound rank spirit master, asked Instructor Ou if the blue mecha deserved an extra point, since the pilot fighting inside it wasn't half bad. But right beside him, Ou Pei, the main instructor for the 10th grade, a middle stage profound rank spirit master, wasn't impressed in the slightest. With a completely deadpan expression, she tore into the blue mecha's fighting style, calling it an absolute chaotic mess. A style like that on a real battlefield, that's a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Hearing that, Qing Yi could only sigh in helplessness, not daring to argue back one bit. Just then, Yan showed up with Lu Yan in tow to report in. It seemed Ou Pei had already heard some gossip about the kid, because she immediately recognized him as the one who'd passed the entrance exam. At the sight of her, Lu Yan immediately straightened his spine, and under the instructor's intense pressure announced himself in a loud, serious voice. This whole scene made Yan want to facepalm into another dimension. Reporting to the instructor, "My name is Lu Yan, 18 years old, from the Lu family of Bingjing Prefecture, and I'm at the initial stage of the yellow rank." I have preview. Before he could even finish his dramatic Manhwa-style introduction, Instructor Ou cut him off. She clearly had zero patience for his life story. She then announced that the very next match would be Yan versus Lu Yan. The instructor's snap decision made Lu Yan's jaw hit the floor. But before he could even think of refusing, Yan jumped in. The girl looked like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment, itching for a chance to absolutely demolish Lu Yan. At this news, the peanut gallery of male students got visibly pumped, all of them eager to see Yan put the newcomer in his place. A few of them were even snickering and jeering, warning Lu Yan to be careful around Yan, because her skills were legendary and totally top tier. Watching this whole mess unfold, Qing Yi couldn't help but feel a knot of worry in his stomach. He spoke up, asking Lu Yan if he was even familiar with piloting a spirit general yet. Lu Yan replied that his current skill level was what you'd call passable from his time as a reserve spirit master. He'd learned the basic controls, but mastering it was going to take a whole lot more time. Hearing this, Qing Yi was absolutely floored. He couldn't believe Lu Yan had only just learned the fundamentals. You've only learned thanks to his old man in the military, but there was just one tiny problem: he still hadn't received his spirit soul general. Hearing this sob story, Qing Yi hands over the soul talisman for a Wei Yuan Shu model. "Just use this for class today," he says. The regular student isn't here anyway. He then explains that all Lu Yan needs to do is pump some soul power into the talisman to create the spirit soul general. Clutching the talisman, Lu Yan is practically vibrating with excitement. So this is the legendary Wei Yuan Shu spirit soul general from the Mech-Martial Academy. His eyes are sparkling, filled with sheer awe. The design, the patterns, Lu Yan felt this thing was on another level, way classier than even his own father's jade pendant. Seeing this ridiculously over-the-top reaction, Qing Yi is completely speechless, a giant question mark practically floating above his head. Stepping onto the stage, Yan takes out her soul talisman and summons her spirit soul general. Across from her, Lu Yan eagerly does the same. Streams of glowing data flash through the air, merging into a blue spirit armor and a red spirit armor. Inside her armor, Yan can't hold back a wicked, mischievous grin. She was dead set on beating Lu Yan to a pulp, no mercy whatsoever. She was gonna beat him so badly he'd forget all about that little peeping incident from before. Not one to be outdone, Lu Yan actually eggs her on, telling He Yan to come at him with everything she's got. In the stands, the audience is roaring, cheering wildly for He Yan. Every single one of them wants to see He Yan shatter Lu Yan's mech with a single slash. Not wanting to waste a single precious second of this opportunity to pummel Lu Yan, He Yan strikes first. She stomps her foot, launches herself high into the air, and charges straight for him. Already on high alert, the moment Lu Yan sees He Yan coming, he defaults to his only strategy so far, tactical retreat. He dodges, he weaves, and he ducks for cover. He Yan keeps up the relentless pursuit, her speed absolutely insane. After they clash for a few moments, Lu Yan goes right back to running for his life. From behind, He Yan starts taunting him. What happened? I thought your fighting spirit was sky high a minute ago. Not one to be outdone, Lu Yan actually eggs her on, telling He Yan to come at him with everything she's got. In the stands, the audience is roaring, cheering wildly for He Yin. Every single one of them wants to see her shatter Lu Yan's mech with a single slash. This manhwa is getting intense. Not wanting to waste a single precious second of this opportunity to pummel Lu Yan, He Yan strikes first. She stomps her foot, launches herself high into the air, and charges straight for him. Already on high alert, Lu Yan sees He Yan charging at him again. He sticks to his game plan of dodging and weaving, doing everything but fighting back. He Yan keeps up the relentless pursuit, her speed absolutely insane. After they clash for a few moments, Lu Yan is back to running for his life. Chasing him down, He Yan starts trash-talking. What happened to all that fighting spirit you had just a moment ago? As Lu Yan continues to flee, He Yan's voice rings out from behind, taunting him. Seriously, where did all that bravado from a minute ago disappear to? Was through the roof, but paying He Yan no mind our boy. Just kept on dodging. Even Cheng Yi, who was watching the match, was getting pretty disappointed with this run around like a headless chicken fighting style of Lu Yan's. Suddenly, Ou Pei spoke up, telling him not to underestimate Lu Yan just yet. His footwork might look chaotic as heck, but somehow he was perfectly dodging every single one of He Yan's attacks. These words from Instructor Ou left Cheng Yi completely stunned. Back in the ring, He Yan whipped out her dual swords, forcing Lu Yan to do nothing but turtle up behind his shield. He was clearly starting to look overwhelmed. Inside his mech, Lu Yan was struggling to hold on. He had to admit that He Yan's combat power was insane. A spirit master whose two whole subrealms ahead of you is no small obstacle, that's for sure. Up in the stands, a few impatient spectators started yelling at Lu Yan to get a move on. Looking at the situation down in the ring and Lu Yan's fighting style, it's no exaggeration to say they thought they already knew the outcome of this fight. One loudmouth in the crowd started mocking Lu Yan for being just at the early yellow rank, while He Yan was already a late-stage yellow ranker. Basically, there was no way Lu Yan could take her on. A two-realm gap meant that the strength and durability of their battle armors were at least 40% different. He knew he couldn't just go head-to-head with her. He was well aware that he couldn't completely withstand He Yan's power, so Lu Yan chose to create some distance first. Guessing Lu Yan's intention, He Yan in her green mech switched to her guns for a long-range attack. As Lu Yan blocked the shots with his shield, he commented out loud, "Looks like He Yan isn't too great at controlling her attack methods." From this distance, her shots posed absolutely no threat to him. They couldn't even scratch his paint. Being looked down on like that, He Yan completely snapped. She growled, "If that didn't hurt, if that was just an itch, then I'm about to give you something you won't have time to regret." She then unleashed her most powerful technique. Up in the stands, the students watching this whole manhwa unfold went absolutely wild. The crowd couldn't believe He Yan was actually pulling that move. This time, Lu Yan was definitely toast. Even Cheng Yi was gawking, his eyes glued to the action. He was 100% sure Lu Yan had no way of blocking this. Looks like He Yan was finally taking this fight seriously. The kid gloves were off. He Yan launched himself into the air, twin swords crossed in a classic manhwa finishing pose. His spirit energy flared to an unprecedented level. Once he was close enough, He Yan unleashed a devastating swing with both swords, creating two brilliant arcs of light that slashed through the air. One of them came crashing straight down on Lu Yan's mech. The impact on Lu Yan's mech was absolutely brutal. It sent him screaming bloody murder. All the students watching couldn't help but wince. They could practically feel the secondhand pain just from watching. Getting schooled by Yan on his first day, man, what rotten luck for the new guy. But through it all, the Instructor Ou remained completely unfazed. She just quietly muttered under her breath that Lu Yan had already won. Hearing this, Cheng Yi couldn't believe his own ears. He squinted, trying to see what she saw. A student nearby couldn't hold back and just had to challenge her. He thought Instructor Ou had to be pulling their leg. I mean, come on, Lu Yan was clearly getting demolished out there. In response, Ou Pei just told them to open their eyes and really watch. Sure, the red mech Lu Yan was piloting was seriously messed up, but his sword was already aimed squarely at the blue mech's critical weak point. And according to the rules of engagement, that means Lu Yan was the victor. Seeing that sword pointed right at his Achilles' heel, Yan's eyes went wide with disbelief. He just couldn't process this outcome. Lu Yan, on the other hand, was looking battered but wore the smug grin of victory. Inside his cockpit, Yan was practically catatonic. He just stammered, repeating the result of the match over and over in a daze. The onlooking students were just as flabbergasted. Nobody ever imagined that a total newbie, who was a full 2 realms weaker, could actually manage to beat Yan, the Academy's resident elite genius. For the first time, the stone-cold Instructor Ou actually cracked a tiny smile. She and Cheng Yi then made their way down to the arena. She praised the battle between Yan and Lu Yan as a pretty decent fight, so she called on Lu Yan to share his strategy with the class. Lu Yan, who had clearly been waiting for this moment his entire life, eagerly began his speech. In his mind, his victory was a total no-brainer. Lu Yan broke down his entire combat approach. Having been waiting for this exact moment, Lu Yan enthusiastically explained. He'd always felt that the whole thing with Nanzhou, that was one heck of a thrilling victory. Yan's attacks were absolutely ferocious, so our boy basically stood zero chance of fighting back. Yan's accuracy was sharper, her battle armor was stronger, and her speed was on a completely different level. But as Lu Dian kept a close eye on Yan's movements, he noticed that she rarely used her soul power to get a speed boost. Lu Dian immediately guessed that Yan's soul power was probably running on empty. Either that or her fighting style naturally leaned more towards defense. Hearing this analysis, Instructor Ou shot Lu Dian a very different kind of look. He silently gave him props, even while fighting a much stronger opponent. The kid could still stay cool and analyze the situation. This guy, he really wasn't half bad. But Lu Dian wasn't finished with his breakdown. He went on about how he deliberately created more distance between them. That's when he confirmed Yan wasn't skilled at using her soul power. On top of that, he figured out she had a pretty short fuse. So he decided to intentionally get on her nerves. And just like that, she walked right into his trap. Hearing her defeat being spelled out like this, Yan was absolutely seething with a mix of shame and rage. She tried to keep her cool, but her entire body was trembling. She couldn't stand to listen anymore. Yan whipped around and started laying into Lu Dian, screaming that he only won because he got lucky. But Lu Dian couldn't care less about that accusation. He was suddenly freaking out over something else entirely. The mecha got pretty banged up in the fight, and he was terrified he was going to have to pay a fortune for it. This comment just left Yan utterly exasperated. She had to explain it to the simpleton. Star Soul generals are summoned by Star Soul masters. They don't break, that's not a thing. Thinking back, Yan remembered something. Mecha number 16, it belonged to Song Yunxiang. And just the thought of that guy put her in a foul mood. In her eyes, Song Yunxiang was the infamous 3-minute trash young master. And he'd been skipping class for 3 days. Of everyone there, only Lu Dian had no idea what that 3-minute nickname meant. He wondered aloud, wait, does that have to do with his, performance in bed? The other students had to quickly clear up his dirty misunderstanding. Apparently, Song Yunxiang's heavenly soul is defective. He can never hope to level up for the rest of his life. To put it bluntly, he's the ultimate loser, the trash of all trash, a classic trope right out of a manhwa. Hearing all this juicy gossip, Instructor Ou looked like he couldn't care less, bellowing for all the students to head back. But just a second later, the sky above the Mech-Martial Academy went completely dark. A shiver ran down Heiyan's spine. I mean, come on, it was barely even evening. What in the world was going on? Before anyone could even process it, the sky just ripped open with countless tears appearing out of nowhere. And from those rifts, a whole parade of monstrous giant beasts started pouring out. Suddenly, emergency alarms blared across the entire city. That sound alone was enough to send Ou Pei and Cheng Yi into a full-blown panic. Slowly but surely, the students all got a front-row seat to the apocalypse unfolding above them. One after another, the monstrous beasts started plummeting from the sky, right on top of the academy. A few students were so terrified they just collapsed on the spot. They stared in absolute horror at the scene unfolding, and a wave of panicked screams erupted everywhere. People were shouting their heads off that the beasts had arrived, screaming for everyone to run for their lives. These gargantuan creatures, these touties, crashed down onto the earth one by one and started wrecking everything in sight. Arcs of electricity crackled off their bodies, like hungry wolves spotting a herd of sheep. They began hunting down every human they could find. The entire city descended into absolute chaos. Drawing on its freaky powers, one of the touties opened its massive maw and began charging up a giant ball of pure light energy like something straight out of a manhwa. The poor souls in its line of fire just froze utterly hopeless, pretty much accepting that they were dead meat. And sure enough, wherever that death beam swept, it vaporized people on the spot. Even massive buildings were no match for it, getting mercilessly obliterated. The unstoppable energy beam shot out from the beast, heading straight for the Mech-Martial Academy, with no other choice. Relying on his combat instincts, Ou Pei yelled out Cheng Yi's name. Getting the message loud and clear, the kid summoned his spirit general, using its massive shield to block the beam and save the academy from certain doom. But just the shockwave from the impact was enough to send a whole bunch of students flying. It took a few tense moments for the attack to finally die down. But here's the kicker: after blocking just that one attack, Cheng Yi's mecha had already sustained 73% damage, and his own soul force was seriously drained. Just 22.6% remaining. Cheng Yi hears the announcement, and a look of panic washes over his face as he breaks out in a cold sweat. Yeah, this was definitely not part of the plan. Following the last wave of ferocious beasts, the rest of the monstrous horde finally touches down. They're Taioti, the most gluttonous species known to man. Without a moment's hesitation, Ou Pei begins assessing the battlefield, trying to get a head count on just how many of these things have crashed the party. As for Cheng Yi, he's shouting at the top of his lungs, telling all the other students to find somewhere anywhere to hide. This new enemy is way out of their league. At the same time, Cheng Yi is using every precious second he has to replenish his soul power and regenerate his destroyed mech suit. Despite being ordered to get the heck out of there, Yan and Lu Yan step forward offering to help. Before they can even finish their sentence, Ou Pei shuts them down, hard. Instructor Ou bolts straight toward Cheng Yi, while barking at the two of them to follow orders. Cheng Yi hasn't even finished his power-up sequence when one of the beasts lunges at him, its massive jaws wide open. In this moment of pure crisis, Ou Pei moves at the speed of light, instantly summoning his own mech to save Cheng Yi's hide. Looking like an absolute boss, Instructor Ou takes out the beast in front of him with a single elegant slash. Witnessing this incredible scene unfold, inglorious, uncensored full H, leaves both Yan and Lu Yan completely dumbfounded. Turns out the white far-reaching form is the instructor's personal custom-built mech, and they had no idea it was this powerful. This is some top-tier manhwa action right here. But these monsters aren't just mindless brutes. They try a pincer attack coming at him from multiple directions. But thanks to his insane power level, Ou Pei easily spots their plan and counters it effortlessly. But something feels off. Instructor Ou can't help but wonder, did that beast's movements just slow down for a second? Behind him, Cheng Yi suggests they call it quits, because more and more monsters keep spawning in. Against these numbers, just the two of them don't stand a chance. But before he can say anything else, the instructor decisively cuts him off, telling Cheng Ye to shut his mouth. No, instructor. Ou was not about to let him finish that sentence. He decisively cuts him off again, telling Cheng Ya to zip it, period. We've got to hold the line until reinforcements get here. These monstrous beasts are not getting past us. In front of Ou Pei and Cheng Yi, a veritable tidal wave of beasts swarmed toward them. The entire city was a chaotic wasteland of smoke and ruin. Staring at the absolute carnage, a panicked Lu Yan turned to He Yan. So, what's the plan now? Completely out of ideas. He Yan decided to go with the instructor's advice, urging Lu Yan to get the heck out of there. Look with our power levels, she said, will just be high-level dead weight. Getting in their way, as much as he hated to admit it, Lu Yan knew she was right and reluctantly agreed. The two of them beat a hasty retreat back toward the academy. On their way, Lu Yan noticed countless, bright points of light streaking across the sky. At that very moment, Ou Pei got a signal from the command room. Xiao Ye was on the line reporting that the cavalry was on its way. She ordered Ou Pei to form a platoon, with Ou Pei herself taking the lead as captain. The mission objective: defend the arena. Do not let a single beast escape. Hearing her orders, Ou Pei's determination soared, and she launched a ferocious counter-assault on the monsters. A moment later, a whole squad of other Astral Soul generals descended from the heavens. But these weren't instructors. They were the big shots from the student council here as reinforcements. Though she was clearly running on fumes, Ou Pei pushed through it, taking command like a true leader. She ordered all the mechs to assemble into a 12-unit formation to face the beast horde. Every single Astral Soul general received the command and immediately snapped into the Tiger Wing formation. It was a scene straight out of an epic manhwa. All the Astral Soul generals moved in perfect sync, creating an impenetrable wall right in the path of the stampeding beasts. The Tiger Wing formation. Now, this particular battle strategy is pretty slick. The commander acts as bait, while the two flanks swoop in for the kill. Not only does it let them use the terrain to their advantage, but it's also perfect for a long drawn-out defensive fight. Killing two birds with one stone, basically. The move was so brilliant that even Gu Shijing couldn't help but nod in approval, praising Ou Pei for truly living up to her nickname as the White Fox of the Northern Battlefield. Down at the command platform, Xiao Ye gave her report. Yue was on battle monitoring duty, giving the play-by-play. The defensive line was up and running, and the cavalry had arrived. That was the cue. Little Yue turned to Gu Shijing, basically asking, "All right, boss, what's next?" Without missing a beat, Gu Shijing bellowed out her orders to the pilots of the Mech-Martial Academy. Hold your positions at all costs. We're boxing these ferocious beasts in. You will hold the line until this entire wave of monsters is over, with their orders clear. Ou Pei and the other students steeled their resolve. This wasn't about winning. It was about surviving, and just like that, hordes of ferocious beasts crashed against the student defenders. It was a tough fight, a classic struggle you'd see in any action manhwa. A weapon was snatched right out of a student's hand by a touty. These things were using their multi-armed advantage to full effect, unleashing a flurry of attacks, claws crackling, with lightning swiped down, instantly blasting a spirit soul general right off its feet. An explosion ripped through the academy grounds, sending smoke and debris flying everywhere. And out of that dusty chaos, a ferocious Taotie emerged, tearing through the smoke. We're talking a body, several stories high, and who was right in its path? None other than He Yan and Lu Yan, running for their dear lives. The beast's grand entrance was really not helping their situation, as chunks of the ground behind them kept getting launched into the air. One wrong step, and they'd be turned into human pancakes, realizing that if they kept up this jogging pace, they'd be monster chow in no time. The touty would catch them for sure, so with no other choice, He Yan decided to make a stand, declaring she'd hold the beast off. She instructed him to head for underground entrance number 9. But there was one tiny problem. Our boy Lu Yan has the sense of direction of a drunk pigeon. He had absolutely no clue where that was. He Yan sighed, stopped in her tracks, summoned her mecha, and gave him some idiot-proof directions. Run towards the statue of the Spirit Soul General. Xisi, the entrance is right behind it. In the blink of an eye, He Yan summoned her own Spirit Soul General to intercept the monster, buying precious seconds for Lu Yan to make a break for it. As he sprinted away, Lu Yan couldn't help but curse under his breath. He glanced back, his heart sinking as he saw the Taodi viciously attacking He Yan, and a wave of panic washed over him, making him even more anxious. In a flash, the Tao Tai knocked He Yan to the ground, but she just kept screaming for Lu Yan to run for it. He was already sprinting, but the second he heard He Yan's desperate plea, he just lowered his head, gritting his teeth in pure agony. Clenching his fists, he used every last ounce of his strength to propel himself forward. As he ran, he couldn't stop cursing himself out. He was tormented by the question of why he was so damn useless. Why was he only ever good at running away? Why could he only stand by and watch as other people sacrifice themselves for his sake? Lu Yan desperately wished just once that he had some power, that he had a spirit soul general. The moment he thought that, a lightning bolt of an idea zapped right through his brain. He remembered the statue of Zuozi. It was a long shot, but it might just be the thing to turn this whole mess around. He remembered how the statue's soul Jade had reacted when he got close to it. What if he was the one the soul Jade had chosen? If that was true, he could obtain the power of the spirit soul general Zuozi. This was like something straight out of a manhwa. The more Lu Yan thought about it, the more it felt like some unseen force was pushing him, making him run faster and faster. He just prayed that He Yan could hold on for a little while longer. A moment later, the Zuozi statue was finally in his sights. Seeing that glimmer of hope, a huge smile broke out on his face. He tore towards the statue, yelling at the top of his lungs, hoping the headmaster would lend him his strength, praying that the spirit soul armor would accept him. But suddenly Lu Yan skidded to a stop. He stared ahead in utter shock because there was someone already on the statue. He couldn't figure out what in the fresh hell was going on. Not only that, but this shadowy figure had just smashed the Zuozi statue and pulled something out of it. If he wasn't mistaken, that was the soul jade of the spirit soul general Zuozi. Song Yunxiang stood on top of the statue, looking down at Lu Yan with a sly, mischievous grin. Lu Yan was so stunned he couldn't even speak. He just pointed a trembling finger at Song Yunxiang, who was standing on the Zuozi statue, and demanded to know who he was. Standing on that very statue, Song Yunxiang gazed down at Lu Yan, that sly, infuriating smirk never leaving his face. Lu Yan was completely floored, unable to get a single word out. He could only point accusingly at the man who was defiling the Zuozi statue, questioning who the hell he was. No. With zero hesitation, Song Yunxiang stood under the dark night sky. His face illuminated by a spirit, Jade looked impossibly cool as he answered Lu Yan's question. I am Song Yunxiang, and I have returned. The scene shifts, flashing through the faces of those Song Yunxiang couldn't save in his previous life. They appear in his memories, among them the instructors and cadets of the Mech-Martial Academy. There were also those who once looked down on him, and the loving elder who cherished and protected him, as well as the brothers-in-arms who fought alongside him in the Zhuangjia Guard, and that important person who didn't hesitate to sacrifice their own life to protect him. Then there was the one who shielded him and gave him crucial advice during a desperate crisis. And of course, the enemies he could never forget, foes that seemed completely invincible in that awesome Manhwa arc. And finally, the Star-Lord system that was always with him. All the people he had met on the southern, western, and northern continents flashed by. These were the inner demons that had tormented him for decades. Suddenly, Song Yunxiang's eyes snapped open. He had just broken free from that torrent of memories during his cultivation. His entire body was drenched in sweat. A brilliant light erupted from his body, illuminating the entire area. It was so bright it could be seen clearly from outside. Song Yunxiang sat by the window as the first rays of dawn pierced through the room. He was panting from exhaustion, but he couldn't help but smile. He had finally broken through. The very air in the room seemed to crackle with his newfound power. Song Yunxiang was overjoyed that he had finally leveled up. The ancient seals on his body now glowed faintly on his skin. Song Yunxiang felt the immense power coursing through his veins and was deeply satisfied. He had leaped from the initial stage of the Huang rank all the way to its absolute peak. All it took was 3 days to break through 4 consecutive realms. Yunxiang sat on his bed, completely wiped as memories flooded back. For a body with a busted heavenly soul, that was kinda insane. But it also meant he was out of time. Back when he was facing down tens of thousands of unbeatable enemies, I chose the only way out, self-detonation, taking them all to hell with me. Never in a million years did I think I'd actually get a do-over. Yunxiang was practically giddy with excitement over his breakthrough. The intricate seal markings on his body pulsed, even showing up on his face. A satisfied smirk spread across Yunxiang's face as he felt the sheer power coursing through him, from the early stage of the imperial rank all the way to its absolute peak. 4 realm breakthroughs in a row, all in just 3 short days. As Yunxiang rested on his bed, his mind drifted back. For a body with a gimped heavenly soul, that kind of progress is just plain ridiculous. But it also meant time was running out. Faced with an army of 10,000 impossible-to-beat foes, I chose to go out with a bang, taking every last one of them with me. Who would have guessed I'd actually get reincarnated? Faced with an unbeatable army, I chose to self-destruct, to take them all down with me, and yet somehow, I was reborn. Let's rewind the clock 16 years. The memories come flooding back to him, the person he was all that time ago. Because his celestial soul was defective. He was nothing more than the family reject, the piece of trash they cast aside. It was his father who, in a desperate bid to protect him, sent him off to this Nanzhou Mech-Martial Academy. Yunxiang stares at himself in the mirror, but the image of his older, grizzled self from his past life flashes before his eyes. He admits to himself that back then, he was too naive to understand his old man's true intentions. Now, with a lifetime of experience under his belt, the older Yunxiang can only cringe when he remembers his past self, a young master who used his status to live a life of shameless debauchery. But then the Mech-Martial Academy was attacked by ferocious beasts. The Song family was annihilated and the capital Tiandu fell. It was only with the help of the Star-Lord system that he managed to cheat death countless times. This Star-Lord system, created by some unknown legendary sage, was something he just happened to acquire in his past life. Not only did it grant him some unbelievable, mind-bending abilities, but it could also copy other people's Star Soul generals for him to use, and somehow it followed him back to the past. He immediately calls upon the Star-Lord system to run a full diagnostic on his current situation. The system instantly analyzes and reports his current status back to him. Staring at the interface, Yunxiang sinks into thought. While he has no idea how the system managed to reincarnate, with him one thing is painfully clear: the Star Soul generals he spent a lifetime collecting along with everything else are completely gone. He clenches his fists, his eyes burning with resolve. Looks like he's starting from scratch. This is going to be a great manhwa. The very first thing Song Yunxiang does is check the date. He's been reborn on November 9th, which means the Mech-Martial Academy is going to be attacked tonight. In just 3 days, by leveraging the alchemy techniques he learned in the southern continent in his past life, he's already powered up from the early yellow rank, straight to the absolute peak of the rank. Last time it took him until he was almost 50 years old to finally get a rebirth pill, to fix his busted celestial soul, and that was after he finally managed to get it treated. But that heroic sacrifice left some nasty side effects on his body. Not only was he hard stuck at the Saint rank, with 0 chance of breaking through, but he could only muster about 20% of his true combat power. He even had to rely on soul continuation pills just to keep his energy up. Now all I need to do is concoct a single recreation pill and I'll be able to completely restore my heavenly soul with 0 side effects. With that settled, he headed for the medicine shop, the southern continent apothecary in Origin Cauldron City, right in the center of the Eastern District, to buy the necessary ingredients. Yunxiang walked up to the counter. "Hey, I'm here to pick up the heavenly dragon root I ordered a few days ago." The shopkeeper quickly replied, "One moment, sir. Let me check for you. It's still in transit. It should be here by noon. As soon as it arrives, we'll let you know immediately." Song Yunxiang's face fell as he looked around the shop dejectedly. "So I still have to wait, huh?" He wandered off by himself, lost in thought. Alchemy was so primitive 16 years ago. Back on the southern continent, a heavenly dragon root was something you couldn't buy for 1,000 gold pieces. It's the kind of rare item you'd only find in a crazy manhwa. And yet you can just waltz in and order one here. All I need is the final ingredient for the rebirth pill, and I can finally heal my heavenly soul. That way, even if my spirit general is still out of commission, I can use the far-reaching stance to push back those fierce beasts, he mused. Even if I get the heavenly dragon route, it'll still take a few hours to prepare. Might as well head to the arena and set up some arrays to deal with the beasts. Hopefully I can keep the casualties to an absolute minimum. At that exact moment over at the academy, things were surprisingly calm for GU because the beast horde hadn't reached them yet. A familiar voice echoed through the academy grounds. This is the last spot. Let's set it up right here. It was none other than Yunxiang, busy organizing everything in preparation for tonight's festivities. These arrays I learned on the northern continent, he thought, are probably a good 100 years more advanced than anything on this eastern continent. Too bad my current cultivation level is so pitifully low. I can only manage to set up some simple debuff arrays to slow them down. Yunxiang was busy setting up a formation when he overheard a lively storytime session happening just outside. According to the legends of the eastern continent, an immortal once descended from the heavens, and this immortal summoned a celestial avatar, something far beyond a normal spirit general. Hearing this, our boy couldn't help but perk up his ears to catch the juicy details. The small crowd listening to the story was absolutely captivated, oohing and ahhing at every word. Wow, hearing you tell it, yet I can feel a surge of energy just thinking about it. Turns out the master storyteller was none other than Yan, and boy did she know her ancient lore. She continued with the tale. The very first headmaster of this academy was a hero, chosen by the legendary spirit general Zhe. Yan was completely in her element, lost in the epic saga. She was weaving a tale so grand it could be its own manhwa series. The spirit general, she went on and on, spilling all sorts of fascinating details. Meanwhile, Yunxiang was lurking behind a pillar upstairs, listening and grumbling to himself. On this exact day in my past life, I ran right up to you, like a stray dog begging for a scrap of your power. And what did I get? Absolutely nothing. Well, things are going to be a little different this time. He pulled up his system interface and commanded it to scan the massive statue before him. The system's response was immediate, analyzing the soul jade of an ownerless spirit general. Target confirmed, Spirit General ZC. Commence forced extraction. In the next instant, the statue roared to life like a giant freaking robot. It was dragged out into the open, leaving everyone completely gobsmacked. Yan, however, was absolutely ecstatic at the sight. This was exactly like the legends she had just been recounting. This was some top-tier manhwa action. Is this a soul power resonance? Don't tell me that's ZC's soul jade. Lu Yan, still just a kid with zero real-world experience, was starting to panic. Seeing this for the first time, he turned to Yan completely bewildered. Did something just light up over there? What in the world is going on? From his perch high above, Yunxiang saw their stunned faces. But he couldn't care less. He was busy talking to his system. System. Has the host successfully copied the Spirit General Zicai? System, has the host copied the Spirit General Zicai yet? Just tell me, is the copy of Spirit General Zicai complete or not? The system immediately replied, the ownerless soul jade cannot be duplicated. It must be transferred into the system space after finding a host. Only then can replication commence. With a calm expression, our hero replied, well, if it's useless right now and to avoid causing a panic, we'll just have to acquire it during the chaos, when the fierce beasts attack tonight. Easy enough. Just then the system announced a new message. Yunxiang was a bit surprised. Oh, my heavenly dragon root delivery is here already. With that, he quickly wrapped up his preparations, so he could go pick up his package. All right, this area is more or less ready. Time to head to the apothecary and get my delivery. I need to hurry up and concoct that rebirth pill to restore my heavenly soul. This time, I won't let everyone's sacrifice be in vain. Returning to the market to find the apothecary, Yunxiang strolled casually through the crowded street. But on that path, he brushed past someone who, in a single fleeting glance, caught his entire attention. His eyes narrowed with a flicker of recognition. This person felt both like a total stranger and someone he knew, leaving Yunxiang completely baffled. Confused, he silently called on his system, run a scan. This feels like the start of a whole new manhwa plot twist. Scan this mysterious guy's info. Seeing how incredibly suspicious the man in front of him was, Song Yunxiang had his system. Give the guy a full scan. After the system did its thing, Song Yunxiang confirmed his theory was spot on. The soul force was concentrated in the dantian inside his chest. That's a cultivation technique you only find in the Northern Kingdom, but he had an even bolder theory. The man before him was from the Dilun Kingdom. The Dilun Kingdom and its neighbor share a border with the northern part of the Tiandu Kingdom, and they're one of the three nations that inherited the orthodox culture of the Eastern continent. In his past life's memories, about 3 years from now, the warmongering Dilun Kingdom would be the first to break the balance of power. They launched a full-scale invasion against the Tiandu Kingdom. All the other countries gradually got dragged into the war. This ultimately became the fuse that blew the whole world up. The Eastern continent, Yunxiang couldn't help but scratch his head. What in the world are people from the Weilun Kingdom doing here at a time like this? Or is there some juicy top-secret plot twist happening that I'm not privy to? Yunxiang decided to put a pin in that thought for now. He headed back to the Nanzhou Grand Apothecary's branch in Yuanding City to pick up the medicine he had ordered. The moment he stepped into the lobby, he was ambushed with a ridiculously warm welcome and an endless barrage of sales pitches. Right now, our Jinshang powder and body tempering solution are on a crazy good sale. And we've just gotten a fresh shipment of the new Jujing Dan. This stuff was personally refined by a second-grade alchemist from our Nanzhou headquarters. Facing this relentless sales assault, he just grunted and cut to the chase. I'm here to pick up the Tianlong Geng I ordered 3 days ago. The name's Song. The staff member, realizing her sales pitch might have been a tad aggressive, quickly invited him to wait in the VIP area. Yunxiang sat down, and another young woman came over to confirm the details. Mr. Song, the Tianlong Geng you ordered from our shop 3 days ago has arrived. The original price is 130,000 yuan. Because you selected express shipping, and after we subtract the 20% deposit you already paid, the remaining balance you need to pay is... Suddenly, Yunxiang held up a hand, stopping the girl mid-sentence. He then reached into his pocket, but instead of pulling out cash, he spoke slowly. I seem to be a little short on cash right now. The moment she heard that, the girl's face fell instantly, fearing she was dealing with a deadbeat. I'm sorry, sir, but our shop has a strict no installment plan policy. If you can't pay the full amount, I'm afraid you can't take the item with you. After fumbling in his pocket for a moment, Song Yunxiang finally pulled out a spatial storage card. And within that card was an absolute mountain of medicinal pills. I'd like to sell these pills to you. Again, the young woman replied instantly without even bothering to look. I apologize, Mr. Song, but we don't purchase pills here. But when she finally glanced over, her jaw practically unhinged. Is that a Zhuhun Dan, a third-grade pill? And that one, don't tell me that's a Ninghun Dan. I'm sorry, sir, but our shop has a strict no installment plan policy. If you can't pay the full amount, I'm afraid you can't take the item with you. After fumbling in his pocket for a moment, Song Yunxiang finally pulled out a spatial storage card. And within that card was an absolute mountain of medicinal pills. I'd like to sell these pills to you. Again, the young woman replied instantly without even bothering to look. I apologize, Mr. Song, but we don't purchase pills here. But when she finally glanced over, her jaw practically unhinged. Is that a Zhuhun Dan, a third-grade pill? And that one, don't tell me that's a Ninghun Dan. This is like a scene from a cultivation manhwa. But when she finally glanced over, her jaw practically unhinged. Is that a Zhuhun Dan, a third-grade pill? And that one, don't tell me that's a Ninghun Dan. A fourth-grade pill is rare, you say. This is a star-gathering pill. And its quality is even higher than what our main store's Grandmaster can produce. What is this? I don't even recognize them. At this point, the young lady was utterly bewildered. Excuse me, sir, may I take these pills? To get our head manager's opinion. Song Yunxiang knew they'd buy his pills one way or another, a classic manhwa trope. So he calmly replied, go ahead. I'll be taking the Heavenly Dragon's beard for now. Do you guys have a pill refining room? I'd like to borrow it for a bit. It was the first time she'd ever heard a customer ask to borrow the alchemy room, so she stammered in response. "We have an alchemy room, but since we don't have a resident alchemist, the room hasn't been used in a very long time." He just brushed her off. "I just need a quiet place that can block out soul force fluctuations." Hearing him say that, the girl immediately led the way. "Then please follow me." In a flash, she had led Song Yunxiang to the alchemy room just as he had asked. He then entered alone. The moment he walked in, Song Yunxiang was absolutely stunned. An old-fashioned pill furnace from 60 years ago, man, this thing looked like a total piece of junk. Well, that's a shame. This thing's broken, and I was actually kinda hoping to give it a whirl. Yunxiang let out a heavy sigh, feeling about as useful as a soggy noodle as he accepted his fate. He plopped down on the floor. Good thing I learned the art of ethereal forging from the spirit race back in the southern continent, and combined it with a smelting formation. Who needs a clunky old furnace when you can make pills with magic? With a new plan in mind, Yunxiang whipped out his supplies and started laying out the formation. One by one, he gathered all the medicinal herbs needed for the array. He gently dropped the final ingredient into the four-directional smelting formation. With all the materials now inside the magic circle, Yunxiang was ready to cook. Everything was going suspiciously smoothly. If anyone happened to be walking past the alchemy room, they'd have seen a brilliant red light blasting out from inside. The young attendant took the pills from Yunxiang's hands and immediately dashed off to find the head manager. Inside a luxurious office, a middle-aged man was scowling at his account books. A sudden knock on the door made him grumble. "Enter." The girl walked in holding the box of pills. Yunxiang was brought to the manager's office in a flash. She explained to her boss, "The guest wishes to use these pills as collateral, so he gave this batch to me. There's one pill in there that looks like it's straight out of a legendary manhwa. I've never seen anything like it. Please have a look." The manager picked up each vial, nodding his head. A third-grade essence-gathering pill, a soul-continuing pill, and this one is a soul-condensing pill. Then his eyes landed on the final pill and his jaw hit the floor. He was so shocked he practically shrieked. "This is a flame-igniting pill." The head manager stared wide-eyed at the girl who brought the medicine. "Are you absolutely positive this client wants to sell these to our association?" Seeing how worked up he was, she quickly replied, "Yes, sir, that's exactly what the gentleman said." He shot up from his chair. "Where is he right now?" The girl stammered, "He's in the alchemy room. He wanted to borrow it for a bit, so I took him there." It was only then that she remembered a crucial, tiny detail. "Oh, I forgot to tell you, sir. The alchemy furnace is broken. But he's just a kid. He probably doesn't even know how to make pills right. He must have just wanted a soundproof room to chat with someone." Oh, how spectacularly wrong she was. Because in reality, Song Yunxiang's true age was probably greater than that old manager's grandfather. That's why refining a pill without a cauldron is an absolute piece of cake for him. In the blink of an eye, Song Yunxiang had already finished concocting a pill. He was drenched in sweat but looked absolutely thrilled. All because he'd successfully crafted a brand new pill. Without a moment's hesitation, Song Yunxiang popped the pill he'd just created right into his mouth and swallowed it whole. Then he began to absorb that 6th-grade medicinal pill on the spot. His soul meridians could finally be restored. The sigils across his body began to glow once more. Song Yunxiang's entire body looked like it was enveloped in a brilliant blue flame. Just then, the head manager and that young lady finally arrived. They came to a stop right in front of the alchemy room he'd entered. The old man pointed a finger at the room and asked, "Not a peep, and it's been 2 full hours. Are you certain that guest has been inside this alchemy room the entire time?" Song Yunxiang's entire body looked as if it were shrouded in a mystical blue fire. At that moment, the head manager and the young lady arrived right outside the alchemy room, the very one he had entered. He pointed at the room and demanded, "There's been no movement. It's been 2 solid hours. Are you absolutely positive that customer is still in this alchemy room? Are you absolutely positive that customer is still in this alchemy room?" She answered nervously, He seems to be inside. He set up some kind of restrictive array or something. The door won't open from the outside." The second those words left her lips, a sound echoed from within the room, and the door slowly began to creak open. From the inside, Song Yunxiang stepped out. Oh, he saw them all right. A smug grin immediately spread across Song Yunxiang's face as he thought hook, line, and sinker. The young lady who had helped him in the VIP lounge scurried forward. Mr. Song, are you finished already? This is the head manager of our establishment. She then turned to the manager and introduced him. This is Mr. Song. The man offered a polite bow. Mr. Song, this humble one, is Hong Fang. He sized up Song Yunxiang from head to toe, silently assessing him. Judging by the clothes this young man is wearing, they seem to be the uniform of the Jishuan Academy, and yet he was able to casually pull out so many precious medicinal pills. Could he be the young master of some powerful clan? Or does he have a grandmaster alchemist backing him like some kind of overpowered manhwa protagonist? Song Yunxiang returned the bow with equal courtesy. I wonder if Manager Hong is satisfied with the medicinal pills model that I'm offering. Hong Fong heard this and shot back. Satisfied, my friend, that's an understatement. Hong Fong held up the vial of pills and said, this old one dares to guess, in that the red pill in this vial is none other than the legendary 5th grade blood-burning pill, the kind of cheat item you only see in a manhwa. Hearing the correct answer, Yunxiang replied, quite pleased. Worthy of the grand manager overseeing an entire city. Old Hong, your eye for quality is as sharp as they come. The man replied humbly, you flatter me, you truly do. Mr. Song, are you absolutely sure you wish to part with such a priceless treasure to our humble shop? Yunxiang put on a show of scratching his head. What can I say, I'm in a bit of a jam recently. Just name your price, old Hong. Hong Fong then launched into a grand speech. This blood-burning pill can allow a spirit soul master below the earth rank to instantly jump up an entire minor realm. If used when one's cultivation is at its peak, it even has the miraculous effect of shattering the bottleneck to a new major realm. If you were to take this to auction, you would undoubtedly fetch a far better price. Are you certain you don't want to reconsider, Mr. Song? He let out a sigh. I told you I'm in a bind. Enough with the sales pitch, just give me a number. Seeing his firm resolve, the old man began calculating the prices for all the pills he had provided. He beamed. However, this old man wishes to build a friendship with you, Mr. Song, so I'll take the liberty of using my authority as grand manager to make a decision. The total comes to 444,000. Let's just round it up to a nice even 500,000. I wonder if Sir finds that agreeable. Upon hearing this, Yunxiang smirked internally. This old fox, he sees my young face and thinks he can make me believe I've struck gold. Next on the agenda is to try and sniff out the source of all my pills. Yunxiang decided to play along. He started acting like one of those seasoned hagglers at the market, playing it cool. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. 500,000, Seeing him look like he might back out of the deal, Hong Fang quickly added with a touch of panic, Mr. Song. To be perfectly frank with you, for this collection of pills, our shop would only be able to resell them for 600,000 at most. Offering you 500,000 is absolutely our final offer. That's a decision I can make. Or how about this? I'll even throw in some valuable medicinal herbs, worth tens of thousands more for Mr. Song. How does that sound? Seeing the fish had taken the bait, our hero pulled out his spatial card again and said, Old Hong, that's not what I meant at all. The house of Marquis Juan has never taken advantage of others. With a flourish, he materialized 2 more 5th grade pills and declared, I'll add 2 more blood combustion pills for a grand total of 1 million, nice and even. Hong Fang took the 2 vials Yunxiang offered, his mind an absolute whirlwind. He just whipped out 2 more 5th grade pills. Could it be? Does this young man actually have a 5th grade pill master backing him? Hold on a second. The house of Marquis Juan. Is he talking about the Marquis Juan? One of the 8 great generals of Tiandu. This kid is the young master of the Song family from Nanzhou. Yunxiang coolly watched Hong Fang. One of the men behind Hong Fang looked at the pills, then stammered in awe. It really is a blood combustion pill. And this quality, it's top grade. You could even call it supreme grade, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration. Yunxiang smirked to himself. This bait It should be more than enough to reel in the big fish behind you all. This head manager, Hong Feng, was with 90% certainty a descendant from a branch family of the Hong Clan Merchant Guild from his past life's memories. In his previous life, the Hong Clan Merchant Guild was one of the JADE, three great merchant guilds of the Eastern continent, controlling a staggering 70% of the market share for medicinal herbs and alchemy in the Tiandu Kingdom, a real powerhouse in any Manhwa. The sheer complexity of the Hong Clan's influence, deeply entrenched in both the political and business worlds, had been meticulously built up over several generations. Not only were they absurdly wealthy, but they also possessed a network of connections and resources that was downright terrifying. In this life, to stop the coming beast tide, I can't just rapidly increase my own strength. I also have to build my own power base. Money, connections, and resources. I need every single one of them. The Hong Clan Merchant Guild, a big fish like you, is exactly what I need to exploit for my own grand plan. After a moment of thought, Hong Feng finally spoke up. Young Master Song, this really isn't the proper place for a conversation. How about we head over to my office? Have a seat and try some of the special tea I've been saving. Song Yunxiang went with the flow and nodded. You're far too kind, Elder Hong. And with that, the whole group made their way over to Hong Feng's management office. The second the deal was done, his system pinged him. Your bank account has received a deposit of 1 million yuan. Afterwards, Song Yunxiang asked Hong Feng about the cost of that Tianlong Geng. The moment the words left his mouth, Hong Feng jumped in. Young Master Song, that Tianlong Geng, while rare, isn't exactly what I'd call a priceless treasure. A measly 30,000 pet. This old man will take the liberty of waiving the fee for you, young Master Song. Hearing that Yunxiang didn't even try to refuse, simply lifting his teacup in response. Well, if you put it that way, then I guess I won't stand on ceremony. He took a sip of the hot tea and immediately complimented its exquisite taste. At that moment, Hong Feng gestured to the young woman by his side. He told her, go and get the gold card marked with the number 3. From the third drawer beneath my desk. A few moments later, a gleaming card was presented right before his eyes. Much to his confusion, Hong Feng explained with a huge grin, Brother Song, I'm sure you already know our Nanzhou Grand Apothecary is an enterprise operating under the Hong Clan Merchant Guild. This little thing here is a platinum-level membership jade token for our Hong Clan Merchant Guild. With this card, you can walk into any shop under the Hong Clan's banner and you'll receive the full treatment and discounts of a platinum member. Please, it's just a small token of this old man's sincerity. I insist you accept it, Brother Song. And so Yunxiang left the pharmacy, shiny new card in tow. Before he took off, they even gave each other a friendly wave goodbye. It wasn't until Yunxiang was a good distance away that the young woman beside Hong Feng finally dared to ask, Head Manager, why on earth did you treat that young Master Song with such reverence? Did you figure out his background or something? His whole vibe screams Manhwa protagonist? The old man just chuckled and said, a moment ago, he mentioned the Marquis Juan's residence, and his surname just happens to be Song. And Marquis Juan is one of the 8 great generals of Tiandu. His surname is Song too. If my guess is right, I'm afraid he's some young master from a major house. Most likely from the Song family of Nanzhou. The 8 generals of Tiandu, those Saint-Level experts, they represent the absolute peak of our Tiandu nation's fighting power. But even a Saint-Level expert who you can count on one hand is nowhere near as valuable as the 5th grade alchemist backing this young Master Song. After hearing this juicy analysis, the young lady piped up again. Chief Manager, do you really think that behind this young Master Song there could actually be a 5th grade alchemist? There are hardly any 5th grade alchemists in the entire Eastern continent, but every now and then you hear about someone finding a 5th grade pill, usually from some ancient ruins or tombs. She made a fair point, but Hong Feng wasn't having any of it. He immediately shot her down. I just inspected that human fire pill myself. The quality is simply sublime. She made a fair point, but Hong Feng wasn't having any of it. He immediately shot her down. I just inspected that human fire pill myself. The quality is simply sublime. It's bursting with soul power. This is definitely a pill that was freshly concocted and very recently at that. Now hurry up and go find the fourth miss. Tell her that we finally got a solid lead on the fifth grade alchemist she's been so desperately searching for. With her orders clear, she gave a quick, "Yes, sir," and scurried away. Back to Yunxiang, he was just admiring the card Hong Fang had given him, when his gaze accidentally fell upon a girl with fiery red hair. In that single heart-stopping moment, Yunxiang's world came to a halt. He just stood there completely frozen amidst the bustling crowd. Memories of this very girl from his past life came rushing back, flooding his mind and rendering him utterly speechless. Snapping out of it, Yunxiang whipped around, grabbed her hand tightly and shouted her name, "Asan." Asan, completely taken aback by being yanked to a stop, turned to face him. The look in her eyes was one of pure bewilderment, as if staring at a total stranger. Song Yunxiang stared back at her, a storm of conflicting emotions swirling inside him as he hesitantly called her name again. And right on cue, the system decided it was time to chime in. A notification popped up. System has detected the host is in contact with the wielder of a Star Soul General. Information is now being loaded. Load complete, the Star Soul General Lu Bu will now begin replication. Suddenly, the memory hit Song Yunxiang like a freight train. The girl named A-san. He knew her as the deadly female assassin from the mysterious Taiyuan organization. You just know this manhwa plot is about to get wild. A woman who in a past life possessed the spirit soul of the legendary warrior Lu Bu. But in my timeline, she and I wouldn't meet for another 3 years. By then, she was already a powerhouse teetering on the edge of Saint-Level. Thanks to Lu Bu's spirit, her combat prowess was absolutely unmatched, like something straight out of a battle manhwa. She blindly followed the twisted ideals of Taiyuan, forcefully meddling in the wars between nations, all in an effort to stop humanity from wiping itself out. In my past life, I was right there on those same battlefields. And that's where I first met her. After years of dancing with death side by side, we finally became a couple. Back then, my face was marked by a massive scar. And I remember asking Aya-san a cigarette dangling from my lips. Is San your real name? Or is it just some code name Taiwan slapped on you? She sat up, explaining gently. Well, the great prophet of Taiwan, he divined a coming storm, so Aya-san sat up and explained gently. The great prophet of Taiwan foresaw a terrible storm approaching. That's why he named me San. Since San means umbrella, he predicted I was destined to be the one who shields others from the wind and rain. Turning to Asan, Yunxiang asked softly, "So it really is your name then?" Asan brushed back her crimson hair, her cheeks flushing a delicate pink as she looked at him and nodded. And just like that, we were lost in a flurry of passionate kisses. The whole room faded away until it was just the two of us. The air thick with intimacy, but overflowing with sweetness and joy. Snapping back to the present because this manhwa isn't just a romance flashback. The moment Song Yunxiang grabbed her hand, the system chimed in. Lu Bu's general spirit soul successfully copied. Yunxiang gazed at the girl before him, thinking to himself, she's so much more innocent and pure than the A-san I remember from 3 years in the future. But to the A-san of right now, Yunxiang was a complete and total stranger, and one she wouldn't hesitate to eliminate if he got in her way. Which is exactly why A-san already had a knife drawn. She violently shook his hand off, her eyes narrowed with suspicion as she demanded, "Who are you, and how the hell do you know my name?" Without a moment's hesitation, she pointed the blade and lunged at him, ready to strike. Acting on pure instinct, Yunxiang swiftly caught Asan's wrist. He held her fast, urging, "Hey, calm down. I'm not a bad guy." His words caught her completely off guard. She whispered, her voice barely audible, "Just, who are you? How in the world do you know Taiyuan's assassination technique?" Just then, Yunxiang's sharp eyes had already spotted them. 3 men in black lurking behind them. "So you're being tailed," he mused. He barely got the words out before she landed a swift, perfectly aimed kick right to his family jewels. You see, Asan was in a state of absolute panic, desperate to make a run for it. The color completely drained from Song Yunxiang's face, and he let out a blood-curdling scream in the middle of the crowd. The 3 men in black immediately realized the girl who just kicked him was their target, and that she was trying to escape. Just as the three of them were about to give chase, she bolted. "So you're being followed, huh?" He couldn't even finish his sentence before she served him a swift kick right where the sun don't shine. It's because A-san's desperation to escape was hitting critical levels. Song Yunxiang's face went sheet white as he let out a soul-shattering scream, right in front of everybody. The three goons in black instantly recognized the one who delivered the blow as their target, and she was making a break for it. But as they prepared to chase her, a massive wave of energy exploded from A-san's body. A moment later, a brilliant beam of light shot down from the sky and slammed into the middle of the forest, streaking past Yunxiang, who was still trembling in agony. But to protect the girl who meant so much to him, he bit back the pain and with a convenient sweep of his leg tripped one of the three men in black, sending the guy tumbling backward. His buddies froze in their tracks to see what was going on. The guy who fell was absolutely furious. He hadn't even wiped the blood from his nose before all the blood rushed to his head. "You bastard, are you blind or something?" The leader of the group immediately stepped in to stop his subordinate. "Don't cause any more trouble." The underling was fuming, but there was nothing he could do. He could only glare daggers at Yunxiang, seething with resentment. Just as the three of them were about to leave, Yunxiang staggered back to his feet, ready to pick a fight just to stall for time. This is some peak manhwa protagonist behavior. "Hold on. You think you can just bump into this young master and walk away like that?" The goon who got tripped yelled back furiously. "Bump into you, my ass, it was obviously you." He pointed right in Yunxiang's face and declared, "I get it now. You're working with that red-headed fugitive." Once again, the leader stopped his subordinate from starting a fight. He moved in close to Song Yunxiang and whispered, "Tiandu's Secret Intelligence Division is on a mission, kid. I suspect you're an accomplice of our person of interest, so you're coming with us." Too bad for him, he just ran into a sly old fox. Yunxiang had already figured it out. These guys were definitely not from the Secret Service. So his plan did a complete 180 from foe to frenemy. "Well, isn't that convenient? One of us, eh?" Song Yunxiang just casually whips out a random piece of paper from his pocket and declares it's the Yaosha Huang Er Se. Hearing this, the goons exchange glances, and you can practically see the gears turning. A secret code used between different levels of the Tiandu Secret Service sounds like something straight out of a spy manhwa. The leader, cool as a cucumber, replies with the countersign. "The graceful Ku Chenhua. Ah, so you're one of us. My apologies for the reception." Seeing the guy was still trying to play hardball, So Yunshaw decided to double down and really put the pressure on. "I'm an undercover operative for the Nanzhou Secret Service. My designation is 54188. Now, what were you gentlemen planning on doing?" But since the guy was still trying to keep up the act, Song Unshang decided to twist the knife a little and really corner him for good. "I am an undercover operative for the Nanzhou Secret Service designation 54188. And you are..." The leader, now thinking he'd stumbled upon the real deal, had no choice but to secretly signal his buddies. "This is getting complicated," he thought. "You guys get out of here, I'll handle this punk." He kept up the charade while simultaneously trying to probe Song Yunxiang for info. "We're reconnaissance agents reporting directly to the Tiandu Secret Service headquarters. A moment ago, we saw you interacting with our mission target. Care to explain that?" But when you've lived twice, you tend to know a thing or two more than everyone else. "You mean that female assassin from Taiyuan? Just now, she's a target the Nanzhou Secret Service has been tracking for a long time. If you clowns hadn't barged in, I would have already had her in cuffs." At this point, the leader seemed completely convinced. He even knows she's an assassin from Taiyuan, he thought. Looks like this kid in front of me might actually be the real deal from the Nanzhou Secret Service. The intel never said a thing that this woman was also being tailed by the Nanzhou branch. To avoid making a scene, let's just lure this kid into our encirclement and take care of him. He calmly laid out the bait. "If that's the case, my friend, why don't you join us? We can walk and talk." Song Yunxiang, wanting to see what kind of game they were playing, simply nodded and said, "All right, but let me just report to my superior first." The guy practically had a panic attack and immediately stopped him. "Brother, you can't do that. We suspect that there might be a mole from Taiwan." hidden within your southern continent's secret spy division. That's why this little operation of ours is completely off the books. We couldn't notify your people. So please don't file a report just yet. You wouldn't want to mess up our plan to spring the trap, would you? Hearing that something clicked for Yunxiang, he played along, asking, "Oh, so you guys actually have a trap set up?" The leader puffed up his chest, "But of course, my men on the outskirts of the city have already set up the perfect encirclement. See, we're just pretending to chase this female bandit, but in reality we're herding her right into our ambush. They've already gone far ahead, we need to hurry." So that's how it is, as expected from the elites at headquarters. Your planning is absolutely flawless. The guy totally thought he had fooled Yunxiang. But our hero wasn't born yesterday. Yunxiang followed them, but his mind was racing. What a bunch of clowns, trying to impersonate the secret spy division in front of me. In my past life, I was the damn commander of the Xuanjing Guard in Tiandu. I've lost count of how many meetings I've had with the real secret spies. Just to be sure, Yunxiang discreetly scanned the leader's soul power. It was all concentrated in his dantian. This guy's from the Yilun nation, he realized. His energy signature is identical to that shady dude in black I saw near the Martial Academy. I can't believe so many spies from the Yilun nation have already managed to infiltrate this deep. Then a chilling memory hit Song Yunxiang. Wait a minute. In my past life, the Southern Continent's Martial Academy was completely wiped out. During that massive beast tide, and General Zuozi just vanished without a trace. Could it all be connected to these spies from the Yilun nation? This is a serious Manhwa plot twist. Yunxiang's mind was racing, trying to piece together the forgotten fragments of his past life, as he trailed behind the leader of this sorry excuse for a covert ops team. But his deep world-saving train of thought was abruptly derailed when he spotted a candy cart on the side of the road. He thought to himself, candied strawberries on a stick, huh? If I remember correctly, Asan is a huge fan of these. And with that, Song Yunxiang strolled right into the candy shop and proceeded to buy so many sweets that the shopkeeper was absolutely ecstatic. After making his purchase, he decided to try one for himself. Better do a little quality control first, make sure it's not too sour. All the while, the leader in black was watching, sizing him up. Suddenly he asked, "Oh right, brother, I forgot to ask earlier." He was already deeply suspicious, but he needed to confirm Song Yunxiang's real identity. "My humble name is Gu Ming. You can call me Old Gu," he said. "And you are my friend." As if he knew exactly what the guy was scheming. Song Yunxiang played along. "My humble name is Gu Ming. You can call me Old Gu, and you are my friend." Knowing exactly what he was up to, Song Yunxiang thought to himself, "My name is Song Yunxiang." The leader seemed a bit taken aback by the pause. "Song Yunxiang." A sly grin spread across Yunxiang's face as he replied, "The name's Cheng Yi. You can call me Little Cheng." By this point, they had walked a long way from the bustling city market. And speaking of Cheng Yi on the other side of town, the man himself was sneezing uncontrollably. Ou Pei, who was nearby, asked with concern, "Are you okay, Instructor Cheng?" "I'm fine," he answered. Back in a dense forest where the branches were tangled together, a figure suddenly zipped through the treetops. It was Asan. She had successfully escaped into the woods, but no matter how quick she was, two of Gu Ming's henchmen managed to block her path. Asan was forced to land on a branch, trying to hold her ground and calculate her next move. This felt like a scene straight out of a manhwa. But her pursuers weren't about to give her a single moment's rest. As they continued their relentless chase, left with no other choice, Asan had to keep moving. Finally, she decided she was done running and shot straight down to the forest floor. The instant she landed, she spotted a figure standing right in front of her. This opponent seemed to be on a whole other level, judging by the less than thrilled expression on her face. Stepping out from the dark hollows between the trees was an old man with snow-white hair, modelly. But the old geezer's still got plenty of fight in him. Turns out he's the captain of those three goons in black from earlier. He lets out a nasty smirk and orders the formation to activate like a true manhwa villain. The second he gives the word, a massive magic circle flares to life right above her, trapping the entire area where she's standing. All of his underlings begin to appear one by one, leaping down from the treetops to pick a fight with her. But it's not just humans Asan has to worry about. She's also up against two absolutely colossal robots. Right now, things are looking pretty grim for A-san. She's basically the filling in a dumpling completely surrounded on all sides. The old captain holds A-san's profile in his hand, muttering to himself. Tai Yuan's top assassin, known as the red-haired death god. Her name is... And what was it again? He flips to the next page of the file only to be surprised. It just has two words, A-san. Meanwhile, A-san over here is already primed and ready to throw down with him and his whole crew. Well, a spirit master who's halfway to the Earth realm, and she's even the wielder of the spirit general Lu Bu. A flicker of amusement dances in his eyes as he lets out a hearty laugh. I never would have guessed it'd be such a beautiful young lady. His soldiers start closing in step by menacing step, but A-san doesn't even flinch. One of the goons lets out a sleazy laugh. Don't bother looking. This whole area is sealed by a spatial formation. There's no escape. You might as well surrender quietly. You know this girl's not bad to look at. How about we let the boys have a little fun first? The guy who just opened his mouth immediately gets a taste of her blade. His head is split clean in two, sending a spray of blood everywhere. A-san, as fierce as ever, asks the whole lot of them. Was it fun? Getting splattered with their buddy's blood feels like a massive insult to the others, and they instantly fly into a rage. Another one steps up to take command. Avenge our brother! Get that filthy witch, grab her! Their captain, however, just stands there watching, not making any suspicious moves yet. At the same time, Guming has led Yunxiang right to the enemy's ambush point. The formation is active. Looks like they've managed to corner that assassin. Yunxiang, candied hawthorn in hand, thought to himself, whoa, the spatial fluctuations are going wild. While following Guming here, he'd been observing very carefully. They had set up a grade 5 barrier-type spatial formation, and just as Song Yunxiang predicted, it was indeed a grade 5 spatial barrier. The moment Yunxiang arrived, his eyes were flooded with a whole lot of chaos. But the thing that really caught his attention were those two motionless robots. Gray psionic robots, the city guard's personal mechs. Looks like these guys, after entering the city, used some kind of shortcut within Tiandu's inner sanctum to get their hands on a Star Soul General's soul abode. Guming went to report his arrival to his captain, but the old geezer just gave a cold grunt in response and went right back to being silent. Guming went to report his arrival to his captain, but the old geezer just gave a cold grunt in response and went right back to being silent. Guming went to report his arrival to his captain, but the old man just gave a cold grunt and resumed his silence. Meanwhile, A-san was still busy single-handedly carving through the black-robed goons, not even flinching at a single one that charged her. In the middle of her relentless slaughter, a familiar figure made her look up. It was Yunxiang, who with that candy still in his hand gave a little welcoming wave and chimed in, well, we meet again. The guy was still casually using the stick from his candied fruit to poke his own cheek. But instinct, now that's a terrifying thing. Song Yunxiang's hand shot out, instinctively grabbing the collar of a nearby black-robed dude and yanking the poor guy in front of him to block A-san's incoming blade. He furiously yelled, "What are you attacking me for? That was dangerous. I'm not with these clowns." A-san was having a full-blown existential crisis. Just who was this man? Is he the protagonist of some crazy manhwa? He clearly had the piddling cultivation of a yellow rancor, yet he somehow managed to dodge her attack. The old captain of the black-robed squad watched one of his own men die because of Song Yunxiang and just stood there, completely silent. He then turned to Guming. He scrunched up his face in annoyance and demanded, "Who is this guy?" Guming shuffled closer to the old man and explained everything in detail. Apparently, this punk claims to be a secret agent, from the Nanzhou Secret Service. Hearing this, the old geezer instructed Guming, if he's just some stray fish that swam into our net, then it's his unlucky day. Deal with this girl first. As for that little fish, you find a chance to dispose of him later. The goon nodded eagerly. Yes, sir, but hold on a minute. Taking a closer look, it turned out A-san wasn't just surrounded by two giant robots, but a whopping 4 of them. And this time, the old captain wasn't about to just stand on the sidelines and watch. He started piloting his own robot to attack her. Asan was already busy fighting off the minions in black, but she still sensed the danger creeping up. From behind, with some seriously nimble footwork, she dodged a fatal blow that came crashing down from the robot. Realizing things were getting dicey, Asan decided it was time to summon her very own Spirit Soul General. And just like that, her power level instantly skyrocketed. Asan and her Spirit Soul General successfully merged into one awesome fighting machine. The parts of Asan's Spirit Soul General began to materialize, locking into place. First the head of the robot, then its two massive arms gradually appeared. And next up, its signature weapon slowly took form. It was the legendary halberd famously wielded by Lu Bu. Asan's Lu Bu Spirit Soul General was now complete, and you could tell just by looking at it that its power was off the charts. What a classic Manhwa moment. Asan controlled Lu Bu, giving the massive halberd a twirl in the air. Just to flex a little. With a single mighty strike, Asan obliterated one of the four giant robots. From a distance, another robot watched its comrade get completely dismantled. It flew into a rage, charging forward to kill Asan and get revenge for its fallen brother in arms. But let's be real, its fate wasn't going to be any different from its buddies. Just then, an alert popped up inside Lu Bu's system, warning enemy sneak attack from the rear. Alerted to the ambush, Asan dodged with lightning speed. The two would-be ambushers were completely stunned by Asan's absolutely divine spin move. And because they were so utterly gobsmacked, they didn't even have time to raise their hands or launch a counterattack. The result of their shock, they were sent flying far, far away. The two would-be ambushers were completely stunned by Asan's absolutely divine spin move. And because the attack was so completely out of left field, those goons didn't even have time to react, let alone fight back. The result, they were sent sailing through the air. The two giant robots were caught off guard too, and just like their masters, they got launched way into the distance. The two of them. With both mechs getting blasted away at the same time, it was only natural that their landing would cause a massive earthquake. Totally normal stuff. The men in black, realizing things were going south, immediately swarmed forward. Not only that, but these guys started summoning even more spirit generals. So just when she thought she was done, a fresh batch of robots, this time double the last amount, appeared and surrounded her. Asan was having a seriously hard time fighting off these metal monstrosities when suddenly something on her display caught her eye. Turns out, it was a live feed of Song Yunxiang right down below. Asan, now thoroughly intrigued, couldn't help but stop and watch the show. Down on the ground, our boy did not disappoint. He casually asks them, fellas, making such a huge ruckus on the outskirts of Yuanding City, aren't you worried the city guards might just, show up, eh? Guming replies confidently, don't you worry, this whole place is locked down with a level 5 spatial barrier array. We could literally bring the sky down in here, and no one on the outside would hear a peep. Song Yunxiang replies with a calm, even tone. That makes sense. In that case, that's very reassuring. But he was completely unaware that Gu Ming had already pulled out a dagger. Thinking our hero had let his guard down, the fool lunged forward, unleashing a flurry of slashes, but Song Yunxiang wasn't about to let that clown's plan succeed. He effortlessly dodged every single move Gu Ming threw at him. In a classic Manhwa move, Song Yunxiang raises the hand holding the little skewer. He just used to eat some strawberry tang hulu. In a flash, he spins around and jabs it right into Gu Ming's vital point. And just like that, the one who ended up with a one-way ticket to the afterlife was Gu Ming, with blood spraying dramatically from his mouth. Yunxiang just smirks. "And see, now I can finish you all off in peace. I'll wipe every single one of you out." Having said his piece, Song Yunxiang casually yanks out his blood-soaked skewer. It's only then that Gu Ming's captain finally realizes his subordinate has just been turned into a human shish kebab, so he starts screaming his head off for his goons. The old geezer orders his black-clad henchmen to take him down, 3 or 4 of them immediately. Obey and charge forward. Song Yunxiang whips out his storage card and pulls a sword out of thin air, after which he alone, armed with his blade, becomes a whirlwind of destruction. Every single one of the black-clad assassins who rushed him ended up 6 feet under. Song Yunxiang's Eyes scanned the area, checking if his little massacre had changed the situation at all. Seeing things were about to get hairy, Yunxiang decided it was time to bail, but the old captain roared again, "After him, don't let that brat get away," while making a run for it. Yunxiang pinged his internal system. "Hey, you think you can hack this spatial formation?" The system replied instantly. "Affirmative, commencing infiltration." It then began analyzing the formation and feeding him the info. Meanwhile, Asan's situation wasn't looking too hot. Her spear seemed to be on its last legs. And to make matters worse, she was still completely surrounded by the spirit generals of these Yilun Kingdom thugs. By now, Asan was completely gassed. Sweat was pouring down her face, making it hard to even see her targets. The old captain was busy directing the assault on Yunxiang when a loud noise from Lu Bu's direction made him look up. He barked an order to the man beside him. "It's time to capture Lu Bu, activate the star-imprisoning soul-locking formation." Just then, countless magic circles materialized around Asan's spirit general Lu Bu. From these glowing circles, an army of chains shot out, ensnaring Lu Bu. The magic arrays popped up on all sides, relentlessly firing off more chains. Even Lu Bu's neck was caught and bound. This made it nearly impossible for Asan, who was inside, to move an inch, no matter how much she struggled. Both of her own arms were chained up as well. This meant Lu Bu's spear was effectively neutralized, rendered completely useless for the time being. In short, the current state of Asan and her spirit general was one of total helpless paralysis. Asan screamed in pure rage, "What the hell is this monstrosity? This is infuriating." Asan tried desperately to break free, but she couldn't. She flexed every muscle in her body, trying to shatter the chains, but they wouldn't even budge. Trapped inside Lu Bu's spiritual space, San was desperately trying to break free. But these blasted chains wouldn't budge, and she was starting to seriously panic. The old captain saw her struggle and just let out a smug chuckle. "It's useless. This little toy is the soul-locking star prison formation designed specifically to trap star soul generals. We, liberated it from some ancient ruins. There's absolutely no way you can spiritually break free from these bonds." He gloated, barking an order to his subordinate. "Prepare for forced data extraction from the Lu Bu Star Soul General's Soul Stone." 4 hulking robots lumbered forward, each carrying a piece of some bizarre contraption. She could do absolutely nothing about the chains. She was freaking out, but the old captain, he just found it hilarious. "Useless, I tell you. This soul-locking star prison formation is made for capturing pests like you. We found it in the ruins of an ancient Aorda civilization. You think you can just will your way out?" "Not a chance in hell," he scoffed. Puffing out his chest, he ordered his men. "Get ready, we're starting the forced extraction of the Lu Bu Star Soul General's Soulstone data." The 4 giant robots brought out something shaped like a colossal bullet and placed it right in front of Lu Bu. Then the tip of the bullet bloomed open like a 4-petaled flower, revealing a nasty-looking barrel in the center. This thing didn't fire ammo. It looked like it was designed to shoot an electromagnetic field or some kind of sonic wave. A powerful electromagnetic pulse shot out, causing San, who was linked to Lu Bu, to scream in agony. One of the men in black piloting a robot snarled over the comms. "You filthy wench, you made us lose so many of our brothers. Let's see you try and fight back now." Just then a pillar of light shot down from the sky. It was pretty far from the battlefield, which just made the robot pilots curious. But from that distance, it began moving towards them with terrifying speed. The streak of green energy was like a razor-sharp knife gliding effortlessly through every single Star Soul general the men in black had. As a little bonus, the energy beam also sliced clean through all the chains that were binding San's Lu Bu. Not only that, but the bullet-shaped torture device that had been zapping San was completely obliterated by that same green energy. This development left San completely stunned. This felt like a scene straight out of a classic manhwa. She was so shocked she could barely even speak, because standing right behind her was another Star Soul general, an identical copy of Lu Bu. The only difference, the one piloting this one was none other than Yunxiang. He couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement fighting by her side again, just like the good old days. As much as he wanted to have a heartfelt reunion, Yunxiang knew they were short on time. So he cut right to the chase. "So think we should speed things up a bit. I've only got 3 minutes tops. A Tan was completely floored when she saw who was beside her. It was another Lu Bu talking to her. A Tan's jaw dropped as she instinctively screamed. No way, how can there be another Lu Bu? At that very moment, Song Yunxiang was piloting the Lu Bu Soul General that he'd copied from her just yesterday. He charged forward, aiming the tip of his spear right at her. This left a Tan so stunned her eyes went wide, unable to react in time. But surprise, a Tan wasn't the real target. It was the guys in black robes controlling the robots. Song Yunxiang directed Lu Bu to charge straight at them. He unleashed a single thrust that skewered the leader. The guy didn't even have time to scream before he was deleted from existence. Song Yunxiang growled, "Next time you think about touching one of my people, you'd better ask yourself if you're even qualified." Seeing their boss get turned into a human shish kebab, the remaining thugs were terrified. The robot commander, like some classic Manhwa villain, flew into a rage and ordered all robots to attack. Lu Bu once again raised his spear and charged into the heat of battle. But his true target wasn't A Tan. Song Yunxiang was only aiming for the Soul Generals, the ones right behind her. Every thrust from Song Yunxiang's long spear landed dead center on the black-robed goon's Soul General, causing it to short-circuit on the spot. Song Yunxiang's spear didn't just short-circuit the enemy robot, it also went straight through and killed the pilot, controlling it from the inside. But Song Yunxiang wasn't finished yet. He continued to apply pressure, giving the spear a slight twist to push it deeper into the pilot's chest. Then he ripped the spear out. Without a shred of mercy, the weapon he pulled back was dripping with blood. Each drop pattering to the ground, the guy died. A gruesome death, but it seemed Song Yunxiang still wasn't satisfied. He exploded into a blood mist. "I guess I need to be a bit gentler next time." He gripped the spear tightly in his hand and then made it vanish. A Tan had been watching Song Yunxiang's little performance this whole time, but now her patience had officially run out. "Who in the hell are you, and what is that Soul General you're using? Why does it look exactly like mine? What in the world is going on with my Lu Bu?" Song Yunxiang asks. He just waves a hand dismissively. "Relax, will ya? At the very least, I'm not your enemy. We can talk after this. I'll give you the full scoop once we're out of this mess," he says. Song Yunxiang scans the area and lays it out plain and simple. "For now, let's team up. We need to take out this mob first." Azan hears him out. She's a little hesitant, but hey, the guy's making sense, so she decides to roll with it for now. She'll save her questions for later. The two of them get to work. It's time for some tag team action. He takes one, she takes one. But even though she's agreed to this temporary alliance with Song Yunxiang, Azan can't help but keep a close eye on his fighting style. Seriously, this guy's moves are straight out of a top-tier action manhwa. Every single spear thrust from Song Yunxiang is just freakishly precise, and the way he handles Lu Bu's legendary spear, it's so masterful. You'd swear this wasn't his first rodeo. Controlling the god of war. With every lunge from Song Yunxiang's spear, another one of the black-clad goons bites the dust. He's successfully trading one move for one life every single time. As for Song Yunxiang, it's been ages since he got to pilot a Soul General. And man, is he loving every second of it. Ah, this power, it feels just right. The two of them operate like a well-oiled machine, mowing down any enemy that dares to charge them. The enemy's generals are dropping like flies. Thanks to them, the battlefield is suddenly a whole lot more breathable. Just then, some suicidal maniac decides he wants to take Lu Bu down with him. Does this clown really think his tiny little dagger is going to split a giant in half? Spoiler alert, his fate is no different from his buddies. He gets turned into a human shish kebab on the end of that spear. One by one, all the Soul General controllers from the black-clad gang get absolutely steamrolled by our two heroes. But the battle is still raging on an absolute slugfest. Neither side is willing to surrender or back down an inch. Right now, Song Yunxiang is still locked in combat with one of the black-clad crew's own Soul Generals. But these guys love to play dirty, relying on their sheer numbers. So while Song Yunxiang is busy with one opponent, another one tries to pull a fast one and stab him in the back. But even in a 2-on-1 situation, please, for a guy like him, that's just a total walk in the park. Song Yunxiang just gives his spear a casual twirl, and simultaneously slices both of the ambushers clean in two. A-Tan was starting to get winded, panting heavily. But her eyes were absolutely glued to the Lu Bu being piloted by Song Yunxiang. Song Yunxiang, for his part, had no clue he was the star of a one-woman watch party. But hey, that ignorance made him unconsciously flex all of his skills in the most natural way possible. After watching for a while, A-Tan started her mental breakdown of his performance. Okay, so his cultivation is clearly just yellow rank, yet he can use the most basic thrusts to perfectly pierce the enemy's energy core. His control over his released soul power was flawless. He completely understood the structure of the enemy's soul general, and on top of that, his every move was a masterclass in efficiency, wiping out threats with fluid, decisive strikes. He fought like a hardened veteran with decades of experience under his belt. The way he perfectly controlled his soul power, how he seemed to know the enemy's soul general inside and out, and those moves so clean, so decisive, leaving absolutely no loose ends. It was seriously like watching an old soldier with decades of experience. And funnily enough, she wasn't wrong. It literally took Song Yunxiang decades to rack up all that combat know-how. Of course, she had no way of knowing that little secret just yet. After mopping the floor with every last black-robed goon and their soul generals, Song Yunxiang turned to the last man standing. Well, looks like it's just you left. With that, Song Yunxiang locked his eyes on his opponent. This vinyl enemy was of course being controlled by the old captain of the black-robed squad himself. Inside his soul general, the captain was absolutely livid, veins practically popping out of his forehead. He could not believe his eyes. How is this possible? How can there be another Lu Bu? What kind of twisted manhwa plot is this? Where did this monster crawl out from? My perfect plan, completely and utterly ruined. Showing zero respect for his elders, Song Yunxiang charged forward and shouted, "Hey Baldy with the comb-over, get over here and kneel before me." The captain of the black-robed goons, likely driven mad by his colossal failure, completely lost it. "There can't be two Lubus," he screamed. With that, he lunged forward in a blind rage. "I'll run you through myself." Song Yunxiang was just as quick, readying his own spear, his grip on the weapon as solid as a rock. In the next instant, a single slash from his spear cleanly sliced off both arms of the captain's soul general. The limbs of the old man's mech went flying in every direction, pinned down from every direction. That old geezer inside the spirit general wasn't down for the count just yet, and was screaming his head off in pure rage. But now he had to face not one but two colossal Lubus all by himself. It was only then that he truly grasped the terrifying predicament he was in. From within the ironclad, Lu Bu, Song Yunxiang's voice boomed, impersonating the Secret Service to sneak into the Tiandu Kingdom, and even getting your hands on a Guardian Army Spirit General. Spit it out. What the hell are you scumbags from the Diluan Kingdom really plotting? Even through the armor, the absolute shock in the old man's voice was unmistakable. Facing down two enormous Lubus at the same time, he was finally realizing just how terrifyingly outmatched he was. The sheer power his opponent possessed was finally sinking in. From within the ironclad, Lu Bu, Song Yunxiang spoke, impersonating the Secret Service to sneak into the Tiandu Kingdom, and even getting your hands on a Guardian Army Spirit General. Spit it out already. What in the world are you rejects from the Diluan Kingdom trying to pull, even through his helmet? You could clearly hear the surprise in his voice. What Diluan? Wait, are they spies from the Northern Kingdom? At that, Song Yunxiang shot her a look of pure unadulterated condescension. Don't tell me you actually thought these pathetic losers were really from Tiandu's Secret Service. Is this your first time reading a manhwa or something? But judging by the look on her face, Asan really did believe it. Because the second he called her out on it, her face flushed bright red with embarrassment. Hearing his cover completely blown, the old captain's face darkened. He snarled, How did you know? Then the old man completely lost it, roaring like a maniac. Every last one of you can just die. Long live the general. Behind them, Asan instantly recognized the signs. He's burning his soul power. He's going to self-destruct. Song Yunxiang just scoffed at the warning. You're gonna try and self-destruct in front of me? Yeah, I don't think so. Beside him, Asan realized what our boy was about to do. Wait, is it actually possible to use a resonant soul frequency to suppress a self-destruction? Song Yunxiang poured all of his soul power into his fist, getting ready to rearrange the old man's face. From inside the spirit general model, General Lu Bu roared, "Get the hell out of my way." One punch from Song Yunxiang was enough to practically send the old man's soul packing, so his pathetic fading soul power didn't stand a ghost of a chance. Song Yunxiang's punch was so ridiculously powerful that the old geezer was sent flying completely out of sight. It took a hot minute before he finally reappeared, plummeting back down to earth, with blood spraying from his nose like a busted sprinkler. And according to Newton's third law, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. And this old guy was a textbook example. A punch that hard means the recoil is absolutely no joke. At this moment, Song Yunxiang was still inside the Lu Bu manifestation, but he decided to dismiss the spirit, to finish the old man off personally. In the end, the old man was left completely sprawled out on the unforgiving ground. He appeared to be out cold, completely dead to the world, but Song Yunxiang wasn't done with him just yet. He moved in, pried the man's mouth open, and took a closer look. His analysis was swift. A deadly poison capsule hidden in the gap by the second molar on the left, designed for a quick checkout. If I'm not mistaken, you're actually one of Ye Wang's men, aren't you? Even though he was basically unconscious hearing those words from Song Yunxiang was enough to make the old man's eyes flutter open. How do you know of General Ye Wang? Azan was also completely floored by the name Song Yunxiang had just dropped. She gasped. Don't tell me, is he the king of mercenaries, a legendary figure straight out of a war manhwa who leads the 330,000 remnants of the Taihei, the sword saint of the Taihei people, wielder of the Ganjiang and Moye spirit blades? Ye Wang, the wielder of the Ganjiang and Moye spirit, is none other than the sword saint from the sunken island nation of Taihei. According to what Song Yunxiang remembered from his previous life, that man led the tattered remnants of the Taihei people using the cover of a mercenary to join the Chang Legion. For several years after that, Ye Wang was a relentless and bloody force on the front lines of the invasion against the Tianguo. In his past life, after Song Yunxiang joined the Xuanjiawei, he had clashed with the man several times on the battlefield, but the Song Yunxiang from back then, his spiritual core was still full of holes, making him no match for the likes of Ye Wang. Snapping out of the flashback, he sighed and buried his face in his hand. Just thinking about those old memories made the nasty sword scar that guy had left by his left eye throb with pain. Hearing him mutter, A-san was immediately confused. What did you just say? She asked, but Song Yunxiang just knelt there silently on the ground, brushing it off with a classic, "It's nothing." Then Yunxiang got to his feet and pointed at the old captain sprawled on the ground. "This one's all yours. Drag him back to Taiyuan for a little chat." Her face instantly darkened, her eyebrows knitting together as she glared at him. In the blink of an eye, A-san whipped out a dagger and lunged straight at Song Yunxiang, demanding, "Who in the world are you? You didn't just see through the Weilin Kingdom's plot. You even know about Taiyuan. What are you really after?" Yunxiang just smirked, effortlessly catching her by the wrist. "Taiyuan is a secret organization that works for peace, trying to prevent civil war amongst the human factions. So you can relax," he said calmly. "I'm not your enemy, and I'm certainly not Taiyuan's. In a way," he continued, "you and I, we're fighting for the same thing." Song Yunxiang's words left A-san completely speechless. To unite all of humanity and face the real enemy, he said, his lips curling into a gentle smile. She was still frowning, but the anger had vanished, replaced by a faint blush on her cheeks, as she pouted up at Yunxiang. Seeing his chance, he smoothly plucked the dagger right out of A-san's hand. A second later, the dagger was gone, and in a move straight out of a classic manhwa, he'd replaced it with a skewer of candied strawberries and a storage card. With a charming smile, Song Yunxiang offered the sweet treat to the completely bewildered girl, while finally introducing himself by name. A little flustered, A-san reached out and took the skewer, watching in utter confusion as he turned his back to her and began to walk away. "Sorry, A-san," he thought to himself. "There are some things I can only tell you when the time is right." A moment later, she blushed, holding up the candy skewer, wondering, How on earth Song Yunxiang knew she loved this stuff? Asan glanced at his retreating figure one more time and came to a conclusion. What a seriously weird dude. Meanwhile, Yunxiang had silently sat down next to the pile of bodies and started rummaging around for something. It was only then that she noticed the storage card in her own hand. But she had absolutely no clue what it was. Looking over, she saw him pull out several more storage cards from the corpses. He examined them for a moment before grumbling in annoyance. Why are all these guys so dirt poor? There's nothing even remotely valuable in their storage cards. And that's when the light bulb went off in Asan's head. She pointed an accusing finger straight at Song Yunxiang. So, she yelled, you only did all that to loot their stuff. A second later, her face turned bright red as she face-palmed. Ugh, and to think I was just having nice thoughts about you. Turns out you just wanted to snatch up all the battle spoils. Yunxiang, seeming to read her mind like some kind of manhwa protagonist, just raised an eyebrow. You're not by any chance thinking something rather impolite about me, are you? Busted. She immediately looked guilty and awkwardly turned her head away. You money-grubbing psycho, she muttered resentfully. Hearing this, Song Yunxiang slowly got to his feet. Nope, was all he said. He gave a slight shake of his head as he tucked the freshly looted storage cards into his pocket. You're still young. You probably don't get how harsh this world really is. Do you even know what the two most important words are for surviving out here? For some reason, the sight of his back gave off a strange sense of loneliness and desolation. Asan's curiosity was immediately piqued. What are they? She asked him. He nonchalantly pulled his coat open and flashed a ridiculously sleazy grin. Cash, he answered. It's all about the money. The answer was not entirely unexpected, but it still left her with 1,000 question marks floating above her head. Song Yunxiang began his lecture. First, you gotta have money. Only then can you afford to be a righteous hero who doesn't expect a reward. Second, there's the old saying about wealth companions, techniques, and location. Trust me, if you have enough money, there are 100 ways to power level your cultivation real quick. Her eyes widened in shock. She wanted to argue, but she was utterly speechless. He, on the other hand, was looking extremely pleased with himself. This applies to individuals and on a much larger scale to entire nations. With enough resources and influence, you can create any problem in the world. But you can also solve any problem. Our boy was feeling pretty darn smug about this fact. On a small scale, it applies to individuals. And on a grand scale, it applies to nations. With enough cash and clout, you can start all sorts of trouble. And then you can be the one to end it. And then you can be the one to end it. There are no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. As long as you can dangle a juicy enough carrot, you can make even your sworn enemies dance to your tune. And with that profound thought, the atmosphere immediately turned super awkward. Asan rubbed her chin, nodding wisely. Wow, that sounds really smart, she said, even though I have literally no idea what you just said. Song Yunxiang blew a gasket, absolutely furious at her half-hearted response. Just then, a few bizarre streaks of purple lightning sizzled across the distant sky. The heavens darkened in an instant, and countless raging winds began to howl and swirl. He immediately snapped to high alert. Asan looked around, equally confused by the freaky scenery. A horrifying realization suddenly dawned on Song Yunxiang, and his jaw dropped in shock. Is that a rift? How can that be? The beast tide is appearing way earlier than it did in my past life. This isn't how this manhwa was supposed to go. Asan had also recognized the rift. Her eyes widened as she muttered 3 words, Chung Yuanding. A second later, Asan whipped her head around to face the man tied to the tree and screamed. I knew it was you guys. He was just as shocked, turning to look as well. It was them. Beneath the ancient tree, the old captain, who had been quiet until now, let out a few heavy breaths and then exploded with laughter. He flashed a grin full of bloody teeth, cackling as he spoke. Heh, it seems Team 1 has successfully completed their mission. Song Yunxiang urgently turned to Asan. Did Tai Yuan know about this? Asan fell silent, her face a mask of conflict and frustration. Seeing her hesitate, he became frantic and begged. Please just tell me. Finally, with a deep scowl, she reluctantly turned her head and agreed. Fine, only because you helped me earlier. A San began to explain slowly. According to Tai Yuan's intelligence, it seems the Yilun Kingdom found a way to artificially create rifts during their last secret realm expedition. They plan on weaponizing this technology. My whole mission here in Nanzhou was to investigate this very thing. As she said this, she seemed to be thinking to herself, only because you helped me earlier. A Tan finally broke the silence, her voice low. According to intel from Tai Yuan, it seems the Dilun Kingdom found some crazy tech for creating artificial rifts during their last little expedition. And what's their genius plan to turn it into a weapon, of course. That's why I'm here in Nanzhou to figure out what the heck they're up to. As she said this, her voice dropped to a whisper. To investigate this, Shen lowered his head, a Tan's brow furrowed with pure annoyance. But we walked right into their ambush like a bunch of amateurs. Song Yunxiang bowed his head as well, and muttered grimly, so that was their scheme, huh? Turns out everything was a setup by the Dilun Kingdom. Sounds like something straight out of a dark fantasy manhwa. It all makes sense now. Just then the old captain's eyes snapped open. He started screaming like a total maniac. You too! You figured it out way too late, you're all going to die. Both of you are going to die right here. In a flash, our boy's face went dark as he clamped a hand over the old geezer's mouth. Song Yunxiang hoisted the old man into the air, who was flailing around like a fish on a hook. What do you think you're doing? A second later, the old man was getting lit up by crackling lightning that wrapped around Yunxiang's arm, making him spasm violently while letting out a terrified scream. A Tan, completely freaked out, rushed in to stop him. You've already fried all his spiritual meridians. Keeping him alive is way more valuable to us. Hearing this, Song Yunxiang finally let go, dropping the guy like a sack of potatoes. The old man rolled a couple of times on the ground, before coming to a pathetic stop right at her feet. Our hero strolled over and popped a pill into the old geezer's gaping mouth, casually reassuring them, don't worry, he won't kick the bucket. After that, Yunxiang whipped out a storage card. Here, a little thank you gift for that intel drop. These are the pills you're gonna need. I've got to bolt back to Yuanding City like right now. Are you coming with me? A Tan quickly accepted the gift with both hands, ever the polite one. She gave a small apologetic bow. I have to get back. To the Nanzhou branch. It's not like I want to see the residents of Yuanding City get wiped out, but I have a more important mission. Trust me. Can become the guards of this place, and I'm sure the Mech-Martial Institute can handle the rest. Song Yunxiang immediately flashed a knowing smile and waved his hand. No need to say another word, I get the picture. You just take this bald dude and get out of here first. After that, he turned away and summoned the system. The spirit general beast of Lu Bu, the red flame fire dragon steed, is it usable? A moment later, the system replied that it could be forcibly used, but it would require paying triple the usual cost in soul power. Hearing that, Song Yunxiang decisively tossed 3 pills into his mouth and agreed. A San's jaw dropped at the sight. 3-star soul-sustaining pills. Those things cost 50,000 Tiandu coins apiece, and that guy just ate 3 of them at once. He stood stock still in the middle of the vast forest, surrounded by 2 circles, one large and one small, formed from pure soul energy. With his preparations complete, a blinding pillar of light shot straight into the heavens. She looked up, and then a sudden realization hit her as she gasped. Wait a second, don't tell me! The body of a spirit soul beast slowly began to appear, and on its back rode a spirit soul general. The red flame fire dragon gradually materialized in the air, its eyes burning like crimson embers. A moment later, A-san saw Song Yunxiang himself, riding on its back, and screamed in disbelief. The red flame fire dragon. She stared with wide, incredulous eyes. That was the spirit general beast, the red flame fire dragon. Only heaven rank masters are supposed to be able to unlock it. Even I can't use it, so how in the world can he? As her mind raced, A-san suddenly remembered something. That's right, Zuotzi of the Mech-Martial Institute. According to the intelligence from Taiwan, the legendary spirit soul general Zuotzi possesses the ability to shapeshift into other spirit soul generals like something from a wild manhwa. Could it be that this man is the master of the Zuotzi spirit soul general? Realizing this, She suddenly shouted Song Yunxiang's name, causing him to turn his head in surprise. The Weiliang Kingdom's target this time is related to Zuozi. You have to be careful. A San cupped her hands around her mouth and gathered her strength. Screaming at the top of her lungs, Song Yunxiang heard her loud and clear, leaving her with a quick thanks before blasting off. Soaring high into the sky, the spot where he'd just been standing was now nothing but a deep crater. With a few stray bolts of lightning still crackling in the air, a Tan looked down, so tense that beads of sweat were forming on her brow. Since when did the Tiandu kingdom have a mysterious powerhouse like that lurking around? She grimly pulled her collar up to cover her mouth, her thoughts racing to the Seoul General Xiezi. This guy could completely shatter the balance of power between the three nations and become the trigger for an all-out war. I have to report this to the organization and fast. Meanwhile, Song Yunxiang was riding on the back of the red flame fire dragon, blazing a trail through the sky. The beast shot forward like a ferocious howling gale. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed as he stared into the distance. So the Yilan kingdom created that rift, and it was all to snatch the soul jade of Xiezi. No wonder in his memories of his past life, the records of the soul jade's location went completely cold after the beast died in this Manhwa. Song Yunxiang couldn't help but wonder if it was because of him that the rift had appeared ahead of schedule. Was it because he interfered with the soul jade this morning? Or was it because he crashed a Tan's ambush? Whatever. If my actions can actually change history, then I absolutely have to save them. With his mind made up, Yunxiang let out a great shout, ordering the red flame fire dragon to accelerate, shooting forward like a missile. Right now, Yuanding City was engulfed in smoke and flames that reached for the heavens. In the western district, mixed with the crackle of burning fires, were the desperate screams and cries for help from the miserable citizens. Guo Yuan was down on one knee, putting all her body weight onto the sword she'd plunged into the ground, just to keep herself from collapsing. Just then, the Yuanding City Guard arrived, specifically the 5th Squad of the Western District's patrol unit, forming a line between her and a pack of ravenous beasts. Instructor Guo, are you all right? A guard captain stepped forward, carefully helping her up. The woman they called Instructor Guo was none other than Guo Yuan, a Xuan rank elementary instructor from the Mech-Martial Academy. She frowned, panting for breath. Captain Chu, thank you for stepping in just now. Without turning back, he replied, don't be so formal. If anything, I should be the one thanking you for bringing your students as reinforcements. This was Guo Yuan, a Xuan rank instructor from the Martial Arts Academy. She frowned, gasping for breath. Captain Zhu, thank you for stepping in to help just now. Without even turning his back, he replied, don't mention it. I'm the one who should be thanking you for leading your students here to help. Thanking you for bringing your students to our aid. The man speaking was the captain of the 5th Squad of the West City Garrison, a peak-level warrior named Zhu Tong, his brows furrowed with regret, feeling he had led them to their deaths. Zhu Tong looked on in agony at the bodies of the students lying scattered across the ground. As he spoke, his grief turned to unbridled rage. He whipped his head around to glare at the colossal beasts before him, cursing them as the monsters they were. Suddenly, one of the guards screamed out, calling to Zhu Tong, 2 more on the left. He warned, his voice laced with panic. Another one popped up at our 11 o'clock position on the right. Then another guard froze, his eyes widening in shock. As he realized something terrifying, he began to tremble, his eyes darting around as he counted the number of beasts that had appeared. A moment later, he announced in sheer horror, We're screwed. There are 40 of them on the right, the remaining men were instantly gripped by fear. There's only a handful of us left. We can't possibly hold out for long. Should we retreat now? Zhu Tong immediately roared back, retreat is not an option. Our orders were to defend this position to the death. We must stop these beasts from breaking through the perimeter. We cannot allow our brothers to have died in vain, he declared. We are the soldiers of Tiandu. We face mountains of blades and seas of fire, but we never back down. Tiandu will be victorious, he roared, raising his sword high. It was a declaration worthy of any epic Manhwa hero. His unwavering spirit instantly reignited the fighting will of the others. They joined his cry with renewed determination, roaring in unison. Tiandu will be victorious. Even the 2 guards who were supporting Guo Yuan stared forward with grim resolve. In the heat of the moment, no one noticed what was happening far behind them. Behind a shattered wall, two terrified civilians were peeking out from their hiding spot. They watched as Zhu Tong, he started giving orders. Instructor Guo will hold these beasts off. This is our chance. You lead the students and all the civilians behind us and retreat first. With that, he took a running start and leaped into the air. Zhu Tong led the charge, followed closely by two other warriors who were running like the wind. They let out a unified battle cry, "Kill!" But these monsters were anything but tame. They roared back, opening their massive jaws lined with sharp fangs. Both sides radiating a kill or be killed aura, charged head-on at each other. This action-packed manhwa scene was just getting started. Zhu Tong swung his sword down, but the beast actually managed to catch the blade. Suddenly, where did he pull another sword from? While the monster was preoccupied with the first sword, Zhu Tong used the second one to land a brutally painful slash. On the other side, Mu Fenyun asked, "Instructor Guo, are we really supposed to fall back?" Guo Yuan bowed his head. "I've already sent a request for reinforcements to headquarters. Just hold on a little longer, they should be here soon." Hearing this, the kid immediately raised his sword, eager to rush forward and help the others fighting. The moment Mu charged in, he was sent flying by a beast losing his grip on his sword. Instantly, another monster lunged, pinning his head down with its claws. Before Mu even had a chance to defend himself, then it opened its blood-red, seemingly bottomless mouth, planning to swallow him whole, ignoring how fiercely Fatty struggled. And just like that, one of his arms was decisively chomped off and devoured. Breaking out in a cold sweat, Fatty let out a blood-curdling scream of agony. Across the way, Four Eyes, who was desperately fighting his own beast, yelled out his name, seeing the monster over there, opening its mouth again to eat the rest of his teammate. He began to panic. At that exact moment, a loud shout suddenly rang out, telling it to get lost after the roars. Zhu Tong slammed a powerful kick into the beast, making it release Fatty in a pained shriek. He frantically helped the other guy up from the ground, telling Fatty to get on his feet. Just then, over on the other side, Four Eyes was getting manhandled by a massive beast. It had him by the leg, trying to drag him up while he desperately clung to the ground, digging a freaking crater in the process. Another student was fending off the gaping blood-red maw of a different monster, anxiously shouting over his shoulder, "Hey!" But just then the beast whipped out its claws. With a lightning-fast strike, that poor guardian was sent flying. He crashed hard onto the dirt. A moment later, what was left of the group huddled together, completely surrounded by the pack of monsters. The other guardian was getting stomped on by a curled, grotesque foot, pinned mercilessly to the ground. Meanwhile, poor Four Eyes was being grabbed by multiple beasts, who were yanking on his arms and legs like a demonic tug-of-war. On the verge of breaking, a frantic Zhu Dong yelled at Guo Yuan, "Where the hell is our backup?" He turned his head, his voice trembling. We're not actually going to die here, are we?" As if on cue, a monster lunged forward, its razor-sharp claws extended. Its arm smacked Guo Yuan's sword right out of her hand, thrown completely off balance. She stumbled backward and fell. A nearby guardian saw it happen and screamed in terror. Instructor Guo, the beast balled its hand into a fist, raising it high into the air, ready to deliver the final blow to Guo Yuan. The other guardian was absolutely petrified, frozen in place. Witnessing this classic manhwa cliffhanger, all she could do was lie there and pray. "Oh God, please anyone just get here now." Inside the shell of her mech, Guo Yan braced herself desperately, hoping someone would come to their rescue. The folks hiding behind the ruined wall were watching the whole disaster unfold with bated breath. At this point, all they could do was pray for a miracle. Seeing how dire the situation was, Zhu Dong lost it. "Why isn't the guardian moving?" he shrieked. The monster didn't hesitate for a second. Its massive fist came hurtling down. Guo Yan had no way to dodge. She could only lower her head and accept the attack. Inside the cockpit, she turned her face away, unable to watch the beast that was about to end her. In the very instant, she closed her eyes, waiting for death. And then out of nowhere, a brilliant blue light flashed across the scene. That beam of light pierced straight through the monstrous beast, right in front of Guo Yuan's face. Zhu Tong was absolutely speechless. He could not believe what he had just seen. The other robots all they got handled. They were sent flying by some other mysterious force. This completely unexpected turn of events startled everyone. The group hiding behind the wall was also freaking out, wondering what in the world that was. The thing landed with so much force that it kicked up a massive cloud of dust. After the dust began to settle, they finally saw what it was: a spear. The horde of beasts was utterly confused by this whole spectacle, and from behind that veil of dust, a massive figure slowly began to walk forward. Each step this guy took was brimming with power, enough to make anyone's knees tremble. What an entrance straight out of a manhwa! He stretched out his hand, commanding his power. A blue light began to emanate from his palm. The nearby spear sensed its master's call and began to dematerialize before everyone's stunned eyes. The spear dissolved into a cloud of floating blue particles. These glowing specks of light then flew towards Song Yunxiang's hand and started to coalesce. In an instant, a complete spear materialized in his grasp. He raised the weapon high and gave it a few expert twirls in the air, just for style points. Then Song Yunxiang spurred on his Qiyan Huolong, charging straight into the chaos. The pack of beasts gathered together, growling as they watched him approach. Then with a roar, they ferociously lunged towards him. Song Yunxiang's entire body looked like a streaking blue flame, rushing forward at incredible speed. As he got closer, he gripped his spear with both hands and unleashed a devastatingly powerful swing right at the monster horde. A massive explosion immediately erupted at the front line, sending monster carcasses flying high into the air. Wasting no time, he immediately followed up with another attack. Everywhere he struck, things just detonated. The beasts were obliterated before they even had a chance to attack. Jutong watched the absolute carnage unfold, and his mind was completely blown. His eyes were as wide as dinner plates, a perfect portrait of pure shock. Everyone watching from the sidelines was completely shell-shocked by the scene. Fatty stammered as he asked the instructor, is this the backup you called for? But Goyuan was just as bewildered, with absolutely no idea what was going on. Jutong couldn't help but wonder, what kind of astral general is that? It's just too overpowered, like something straight out of a manhwa, after wiping the floor with the horde of beasts. Song Yunxiang emerged triumphantly from the smoke, riding his majestic horse. Then he shouted one word: release. His astral general Lu Bu and the Crimson Flame Dragon immediately vanished into thin air. Everything disappeared, leaving him floating solo, inside an energy sphere in midair. Song Yunxiang slowly descended to the ground, and the sphere dissipated along with him. Everyone else was anxiously hiding behind a wall, peeking out to see what would happen next. As he walked over, he calmly explained, "Hey, no need to be so tense. I'm just a humble passerby." Spotting a flag bearer lying motionless on the ground, Song Yunxiang leaned down and declared, "The flag of the Tiandu nation does not belong in the dirt." He immediately took the flag from the man's hands and planted it firmly into the ground. Holding the flag high, Song Yunxiang roared with pride, "Tiandu will be victorious." One soldier echoed his cry, "Tiandu will be victorious." Soon the entire squad of soldiers rose to their feet, chanting along with him. Seeing this, the people hiding behind the wall erupted in cheers. "This is amazing. We're saved." From inside her mech, Guo Yuan stared intently, watching Song Yunxiang's every move. She mumbled to herself in disbelief. That's the uniform of the Mech-Martial Academy. How could a powerhouse of this caliber possibly be a student there? Just then our hero's sharp eyes caught something. It was Shen Ruowei passed out nearby. Song Yunxiang immediately walked over to her and said, "This one's not dead yet." "Running into me is your lucky day, lady." He reached down, picked up the amulet beside her and announced, "I'll consider this payment for saving your life. This little trinket from your fiancé, it's mine now." With that settled, Song Yunxiang casually pulled out a medicinal pill. He gently placed it into Shen Ruowei's mouth. Then ever so gently, he scooped her up and brought her back to the group. Jotong bowed his head, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for your assistance, senior." He quickly introduced himself. "This humble general is Zhou Tong, captain of the West City District's watch." Hearing this, one of his subordinates looked a little awkward. He leaned in and whispered, "A captain? This guy looks like a student from the Jiwoo Academy. You sure about calling him a senior? That comment instantly set Zhou Tong off, who barked back. Shut your trap, knowledge isn't about age. The strong are the ones who command respect. But Song Yunxiang couldn't have cared less. He simply handed Shen Ruowei back to them and said, no need for formalities, this student, I can still be saved. I've already given her a rejuvenation pill. She's in your hands now. With that, he immediately turned to leave, completely ignoring the suspicious stare coming from Guo Yuan. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer. Are you a student at our Jiwoo Academy? She called out. What class are you in? Song Yunxiang didn't even break his stride. Instead, in a classic cool manhwa protagonist move, he casually tossed something over his shoulder. Zhou Tong caught it with ease. It looked like a box of pills. Before vanishing completely, Song Yunxiang explained, the name's Song Yunxiang. I was just passing by. Pure coincidence. You guys hold the line here. I'm going to go check out the other areas. See you around. And just like that, he summoned his astral soul construct. Song Yunxiang hopped onto his crimson flame fire dragon and zipped away, leaving everyone completely stunned. As he vanished into the distance, Guo Yuan was left wondering. His aura, it only felt like he was at the peak of the yellow rank. She thought to herself, how could he be so powerful unless he's hiding his true cultivation level? She snapped back to reality and turned to Zhou Tong. What did he just throw you? Zhou Tong stared at the box in his hand, a look of utter confusion on his face. Then after a moment, his eyes went wide in disbelief. This is a soul continuation pill, he yelled out. Someone in the group, clearly not up to date on his alchemy knowledge, had to ask what in the world that was. Luckily, someone else in the group knew their stuff and gave a quick rundown and explained, I hear it's a 3-star elixir, capable of replenishing soul power. They're extremely rare, and at auctions a single pill can go for 50,000 Tiandu currency. Hearing this, everyone gasped in absolute shock. A single vial of that is my entire year's salary. This senior, he's a ridiculously generous, big shot. While they were busy gossiping, Guo Yuan stared after the man who had just left, wondering, Song Yunxiang, who in the world are you? At that very moment, Shen Ruowei, who was in her arms, suddenly let out a soft groan. Then she slowly opened her eyes, and the first name she whispered was Song Yunxiang. Meanwhile, Song Yunxiang was already zipping his way to Yuanding City, his spear never stopping its deadly dance, flashing with streaks of green light. Riding his crimson flame dragon, Song Yunxiang looked like an absolute legend as he charged. Forward spear held high, he whipped it out with blinding speed, and a vicious beast was history. Before it could even think about attacking, it was a scene straight out of an action manhwa. Everywhere Song Yunxiang passed, you could see the ground littered with the corpses of fallen beasts. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appeared right where he had just been. Xu Hemming stood there nonchalantly perched on the head of a colossal beast. He stared intently at Song Yunxiang's retreating figure. Then Xu Hemming let out an amused chuckle and said, well, now he's clearly just some brat at the peak of the yellow rank. At that moment, back at the main headquarters of the Jiwoo Academy, the Azure Tower stood as imposing as ever. Inside the command room, the large screen was broadcasting footage of the vicious beasts being taken down. Gu Shijing watched every single move on the screen with a dead serious expression. Xiao Yue, sitting in front of her monitor, was reporting the situation and stating that they desperately needed to send reinforcements. Shijing pushed her glasses up her nose and asked, what's the situation like inside the Jiwoo Academy? The girl turned and replied, according to the defense squad's report, it seems someone inside the academy grounds has set up some kind of formation to slow down the beast. And although 2 of our squads are locked in a tough fight, there haven't been any casualties so far, Xiao Yue added, stared at the screen, about to add her 2 cents. After monitoring the situation, she hesitated, and then spoke up. Team He Yuan just sent in a report. They received backup from some mysterious Star Soul general, and all the beasts in that area have been taken care of. Gu Shijing asked doubtfully, that's it? A mysterious Star Soul general, you say? Xiao Yu exclaimed in surprise. The squad at the 4 o'clock position also spotted the mysterious horse-riding general and already sent over the footage. The screen immediately zoomed in on the image of Song Yunxiang piloting the Lu Bu Star Soul general. The second she saw it, she gasped in recognition. Hold on a minute, is that the Sky Piercer halberd? A flustered Gu Shijing voiced her suspicion. Don't tell me, this is the Star Soul General Lu Bu. Hearing this, a curious Xiao Ye asked, Director, you've heard of this particular Star Soul General before. She explained, it's the old saying, among men Lu Bu, among horses red hair. According to top-secret files from the Heavenly Capital's mystic realms, Lu Bu was a fierce general with unparalleled might like something straight out of a historical manhwa. And the Sky Piercer halberd is his signature weapon. Anyone who dares to go by that name had better have the absolutely terrifying combat power to back